Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shelter Game. I can synthesize infinitely. Chapter 121. Treasure Chest. Shan Pao hadn't noticed it before, but now that he heard what Bai Yi said, he realized that there was a gold treasure chest in the hall, and he immediately followed it. Bai Yi, my friend, will there be wine in this treasure chest? There may be. Wow, that's a treasure. Too bad I can't open it, but I hope if it's wine you'd let me have a drink. Shan Pao rubbed his hands with a longing expression. As the saying goes, it is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but it is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. Originally, he had been drinking ordinary drinks since darkness fell, and Shan Pao was used to it. As a result, after drinking the 100-year-old wine sent by Bai Yi yesterday, his taste was suddenly improved again. When he drank the malt liquor he was used to drinking before, it felt like drinking urine. It tastes terrible. The desire for fine wine suddenly became much higher. Ha ha ha, don't worry, if there is wine, you will definitely be indispensable. Bai Yi laughed. Arriving in front of the treasure chest, Bai Yi's eyes flashed, the corners of his mouth raised with an expectant smile, and he reached out to open it without hesitation. There was a crash. The soft light dispersed. A prompt immediately appeared on the screen. You opened the gold treasure chest and obtained X10 bloody thorn seeds, X1 activity module, and a violent ring. Close black lens bracket. What the hell, activity? Bai Yi was startled when he saw the reward from the treasure box, and then an ecstatic smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect that in this life, I would get this module so easily. It's really unbelievable. He sounded amazed and couldn't stop smiling. Otherwise, this module is too important. 137 is the same as the trading and communication modules. This module is also a special module that can be integrated into the mobile phone. But unlike other modules, the activity module can be seen by looking at its name, and rewards can be obtained from it. That's right, after you get the activity module and use it, you can get an activity software, in which you can participate in activities, and you can get rewards when you complete it. The rewards are mostly treasure chests, but they may also be materials. But it's not bad anyway. In the previous life, Bai Yi was extremely eager to obtain this module. Because without the module, you have no idea what the content of the activity is, let alone participate in the activity. He only knew that an activity would be refreshed every week or every month in the activity software, and the content would be completely random. It may require you to kill a certain number of monsters. A powerful creature near you may be marked and asked to be dealt with. Or it may allow you to collect various materials to reach a certain amount. Among all modules, the activity module can be regarded as one of the top modules. After all, this thing can really bring you rewards. In Bai Yi's guess, this module is most likely derived from the will of the earth, and its purpose is probably to make players, or humans, stronger and grow faster. I just don't know if there will be any activities before darkness falls. Bai Yi murmured, a little curious. Anyway, you will know after trying it later. Except this module. There is also a thorn seed and a piece of equipment. Bloody thorn seeds. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Extraordinary thorns that need to be watered with blood to grow. When they grow up, the thorns will have the ability to harden, poison, and extension. These abilities can be enhanced by sucking blood, which can be dripped into the seeds when planting. By pouring your own blood into it, you can make it recognize its master, and it will not hurt you after it grows up. Close black lens bracket. Good stuff. Seeing the introduction of bloody thorn seeds, Bai Yi smiled. This seed is also very good. Because he just happened to get a blueprint of the wall of thorns, and he needed plants like thorns to build it. The bloody thorns are perfect, very suitable. After all, this kind of thorns feed on blood and have diverse abilities. If you use them to build a wall of thorns, and the building has similar abilities, then your shelter will have a perfect protective barrier. And if you leave the shelter in the future, you don't have to worry about having your home stolen. You must know that all these buildings are controllable. This is equivalent to saying that the same applies to the wall of thorns. By then, UAE will also have the means to defend herself against the enemy. Other than that, it is just a piece of ring equipment. To be honest, Bai Yi was looking forward to it at first. But after reading the introduction, I felt the urge to curse. Ring of Rage. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. a powerful ring specially created for warriors, which can increase fighting spirit by 10%, and also comes with a special skill, Rage. Close black lens bracket. Attached skills. Fury once a day. After use, fighting spirit increases by 10%, physical attributes increase by 10%, skill power increases by 10%. Close black lens bracket. The effect of this ring is simply unparalleled. But it just so happens that this thing is actually a warrior's equipment. No wonder Bai Yi wants to curse. Such an artifact ring, but I can't use it, can imagine how much it is. But if he can't use it himself, then no one else in the family can use it either. All are magical creatures, including tiger mothers. As for synthesis, needless to say, I don't really want to combine day and night. According to past synthesis results, if this ring is synthesized, it will definitely become more powerful. But I'm afraid that if this powerful person is also a warrior, it will be very painful. Forget it, keep it for now, wait until today's exploration is over and then consider whether to synthesize it or trade it out. Thinking like this, Bai Yi shook his head and put it all away. Shan Pao on the side looked disappointed. I thought this treasure chest would have a lot of money, but it turned out there wasn't even a bottle of wine. Haha, for me, wine is not a necessity, it's nice to have these things. Bai Yi chuckled. By the way, Shan Pao, please wait for me for a while. I'll leave for a moment and be back soon. Hey, do you want to leave? Bai Yi thought for a while and said, well, I have something urgent to deal with. I'll be back soon, just a few minutes. Hearing this, Shan Pao nodded. Okay, then go ahead and I'll wait for you here. Without Bai Yi, he had no idea to explore alone. After all, he had just seen the danger here. As the saying goes, dwarves are not afraid of death, they are afraid of being useless. Just like the bloody Stitch monster before, if he died amidst the screams, Shan Pao estimated that after his death, his tribe would not only not avenge him, but also laugh at him. He didn't want to become a joke among his tribesmen at the dinner table in the future. Seeing this, Bai Yi no longer hesitated, directly displayed the activity module, and then went offline, switched the phone to the home screen. Having already obtained such a good thing, Bai Yi naturally didn't want to wait until the exploration was over to use it. You have to use it as early as possible. What if there really is an event? Thinking of this, Bai Yi's eyes flashed with anticipation, and he brought the module close to the phone and integrated it into his subject. A buzzing sound. The module emits light and pours into the phone like water. Then, a message called Activity software that was being installed began to appear on the screen. A reading bar flashed by. The software was installed successfully instantly. Bai Yi clicked in immediately. Then I saw a very simple interface appear on the screen, with only 3 options. Open black lens bracket activity. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket mine. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket team. Close black lens bracket. Among them, activity is the viewing activity. My is used to check the number of personal acquisitions and completions. In addition to your own, you can also check other people's. As for team, as the name suggests, it means forming a team, but it is generally rarely used, because this function will only be enabled when the activity task content is to kill some extremely terrifying existences. To put it more bluntly, it can be understood that this function can only be clicked when fighting the world boss. Anyway, in his last life, Bai Yi had only seen a few world-level boss creatures. Even those divine beings don't count. After Bai Yi glanced at it, he took a deep breath and clicked on the Activity option. After a moment, the page switched, and an activity came into view. Ha ha ha, there are actually activities. Bai Yi was stunned for a moment, then laughed, and immediately checked. Open black lens bracket kill activity. Close black lens bracket. Activity content. Kill monsters in the dark land. Close black lens bracket. Participation requirements. Have event software. Close black lens bracket. Reward. Black iron treasure chest, platinum treasure chest. The more monsters you kill, the stronger your strength is, and the higher the quality of the treasure chest you obtain. Close black lens bracket. Remaining time, 2 days. Close black lens bracket. A kill event. Hey, the reward actually includes a platinum treasure chest. Seeing the reward column, Bai Yi opened his eyes wide and looked excited. Although the rewards are obtained from the black iron treasure chest to the platinum treasure chest, if you kill enough monsters, you will definitely get it in the end. This is a platinum treasure chest. Bai Yi has never seen it before. I didn't expect to get it during the event. Must participate. Without any hesitation, Bai Yi clicked directly to participate in the event. If you don't participate, you will be sorry for the activity module you got. There were only 2 days left. He didn't know the specific requirements to get the platinum treasure chest, but he had to find powerful monsters to kill in the next time. Is there any happy event that makes you so happy? Sibylle next to her came over, stepped into Bai Yi's arms and asked curiously. A pair of pink jade arms hugged Bai Yi's waist, with a charming and alluring posture. As a succubus and a divine charm, Sibylle's charming temperament really exudes all the time. That is to say, Bai Yi's concentration is relatively strong, otherwise he would have thrown away his mobile phone and started doing nothing during the day. Haha, you were right, there are indeed good things. Bai Yi caressed Sibylle's tender face, smiled and told about the event and the platinum treasure chest. Hearing this, Sibylle couldn't help but have a look of shock on her face, but then there was a trace of envy. I have to say, the world really loves you. She couldn't help but sigh. Obviously the abyss also has a will. Why was the will of the abyss reluctant to do this when darkness fell? But that's okay. Anyway, Bai Yi is her man. As a god, when her man becomes stronger, she can also enjoy the feedback. Thinking of this, she licked her lips and suddenly felt a little hungry. However, he naturally noticed Sibylle's seductive posture, twitched the corner of his mouth, gritted his teeth with great perseverance, and switched back to the game. Just kidding, women and whatnot, where is the game that matters? Not to mention that the mountain cannon is still waiting for him. Next, I have to kill monsters. That's a platinum treasure chest. As Bai Yi entered the game, his figure reappeared in the hall of the dwarf castle. Shan Pao was holding a bottle of fruit wine and sipping it in small sips with a happy face. Every time he took a sip, he sighed with words such as life and enjoyment, which Bai Yi couldn't understand at all. No, the appearance of Bai Yi made Shan Pao tremble so much that he almost threw out the fruit wine in his hand. Bai Yi, next time you come back, can you not be so scary? I almost threw the wine away. He couldn't help but muttered, and carefully put the wine into his arms. Hearing this, Bai Yi shook his head and laughed. I didn't expect you to drink at this time. 0.1. Why did you bring the wine? Hey, isn't this a bit greedy? Shan Pao scratched his head and showed an embarrassed smile. Besides, there are dangers in the secret realm. If I really die here, I can drink some wine before I die and I won't die in peace. Hearing this, what else could Bai Yi say? Only one can be deducted. After Shan Pao put away the wine, he asked, Bai Yi, have you settled the matter? If it is, we can set off. It's taken care of, let's go. Bai Yi's eyes flashed with excitement and he nodded immediately. Shan Pao grinned and stopped talking nonsense. In that case, let's go. The heart of the volcano is at the deepest part of the dwarf castle. If we want to go there, we have to pass through 3 areas. One is the outer hall area we are in now. One is the furnace area in the middle. The other one is the final core area. Holding a shield and a hatchet, the mountain cannon boldly walked ahead to lead the way for Bai Yi. Torches were burning, and the firelight illuminated the interior of the castle. Walking through the not so luxurious hall. Go through the passage again. The outer hall area is really displayed in front of you. It is like a huge space, about the size of 2 football fields, supported by huge pillars, with various facilities and equipment arranged inside. With their arrival, the torches here were automatically lit. For a moment, Bai Yi and Shan Pao subconsciously took a step back. Looking above their heads, their faces were solemn. Monsters, densely packed monsters. 1++, isn't this the dwarf's castle? Why did it become a monster's lair? The mountain gunner was stunned and subconsciously took 2 steps back, feeling his scalp numb. Above the head of this huge space, you can see a huge spider web being woven, and on the web, countless spiders are crawling around, and there is even a dark purple spider in the middle that is as big as a truck, with its lower body covered with spiders. The upper body is that of a human being, and the spider disc is densely populated with eyeballs, which makes people feel frightened. In addition to spiders, some stone pillars are also covered with amputees. There are too many. Even Bai Yi felt frightened, but after the fright, there was endless excitement. So many monsters. He just participated in the event. And the activity is to kill monsters, the more the better, the stronger the better. Unexpectedly, as soon as I participated in the event, I encountered a monster lair. Fortunately, I participated in the event first and then came back. Bai Yi was happy in his heart, but he also maintained his rationality and did not get carried away. Instead, he immediately pulled the mountain cannon behind him. Shan Pao, don't take action next, just hide behind me. Are you kidding me? The mountain cannon's short axe slapped the shield and said dissatisfiedly. Bai Yi, you are my friend. A dwarf has never wanted to watch his friend fight alone. I, mountain cannon, am not someone who is afraid of death. I know you are not afraid of death, but I don't want you to die either. Bai Yi frowned, looked at the spider above his head, and explained in a deep voice. These spiders are not ordinary spiders, but nightmare ghost spiders. They all contain terrifying mental poison and pollution, and can even control mental power. Once you are tied by their spider silk, your mental power will be continuously absorbed, reduced to an empty shell of a body without energy and spirit. Are you sure you can dodge the webs of so many dream devil spiders under attack? If I could, I wouldn't stop you. Not to mention anything else, the number of these nightmare ghost spiders is so large that there are thousands, not to mention the huge and intimidating nightmare spider queens. That was the leader of the nightmare ghost spider. It was conceivable that he would be even more terrifying. Hearing this, Shan Pao opened his mouth. He wanted to bravely say, I have it, but after looking at the number of spiders above his head, he sincerely chose to retreat behind Bai Yi and said that if Bai Yi had, you can call him anytime if you need to, and he won't care even if you die. He is indeed not afraid of death, but sending himself to death and not being afraid of death are two different things. Seeing this, Bai Yi smiled. To be honest, if Shan Pao really wanted to join the war, it would not only be of little help to him, but would also drag him down and distract him from taking care of him. Instead of doing this, it is better to watch from behind. At this time, as the mountain cannon retreated, the dense monsters here finally took action. Roar! A harsh and terrifying sound suddenly erupted, originating from the equally large number of amputees on the stone pillars. Their faces were terrifying, like evil ghosts crawling out of hell. Crawling towards Bai Yi at a terrifying speed. Accompanied by the screams of the amputees, countless blue spider silks were sprayed from the spider webs above their heads. They were the unique spider silks of the nightmare ghost spider and contained spiritual poison and pollution. There is no need to come into contact with wounds or blood. As long as you are touched, your spiritual will be absorbed and you will be introduced to the spiritual poison. While becoming an empty shell of flesh and blood, you will also fight for the nightmare ghost spiders. Even after the battle, you will become for their food. This is a very scary creature. They didn't expect to appear here, and even turned this place into their lair. I don't know how many people died at their hands in the last life. The method is really weird, and it is easy to suffer disaster before you understand the method. But fortunately Bai Yi knows it well and his strength is not weak. Absorb the magic shield. Bai Yi waved his staff, and a huge magic shield instantly enveloped him and the mountain cannon. Rumble. Intense attacks came, and the magic shield continued to tremble and shake as if it was violently impacted, and even the slightest cracks began to appear. There are too many attacks and the frequency is too high. Even if the magic shield has strong defense, it will not be able to sustain it for long. But Bai Yi calmly replenished his magic power and repaired the magic shield instantly. Then the staff waved again. Holy flame! The golden flame surged up and turned into a wave of fire that engulfed the head and the front directly. The spider web above the head was quickly ignited and began to burn along the root of the spider web. Wherever it passed, many nightmare ghost spiders were burned. Bai Yi didn't even need to do anything. The top of his head had turned into a sea of fire. The same was true for the amputees coming from the front, roaring in pain. Ah! Under the flames, countless dream devil spider corpses fell from overhead, and each amputee turned into ashes. But a harsh sound suddenly sounded. It was like a wave of sound swept through the air. Bai Yi heard the painful sound of the mountain cannon behind him. When he turned around to look, he had fallen to the ground, covering his head and bleeding. Even Bai Yi himself felt extremely painful, as if his spirit was distorted and convulsing. This sound was made by the Nightmare Spider Queen, and was specifically targeted at the mental attack. Are you calling for mourning? Shut up. Bai Yi roared, waved his staff, and with a movement in his heart, he immediately used the skills of the surging ring, and then the figures of 10 huge Death City dragons gathered behind Zhang Yi. The moment he opened his eyes, Bai Yi continued to wave without stopping. Forbidden Spear. With a pop, the spear flew out and directly inserted into the body of the Nightmare Spider Queen, who burst out screaming. The powerful confinement effect made it unable to move and stopped screaming. At the same time, the Death Dragon opened its eyes. Bang 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 bang. There was a sound like countless balloons bursting. Within sight, the souls of countless dream devil spiders and amputees exploded, turning into empty shells without souls on the spot, and died under the burning of the sacred flames. With just one glance, the number of monsters was reduced by 400 to 500. It can be seen how terrifying the Death Dragon's gaze is. Its gaze does not need to be specifically locked on a person at all, but only needs you to be within his gaze. Unfortunately, this blow did not kill the Nightmare Spider Queen, but only caused it to make a painful sound. Then a pair of eyes under her body opened, emitting a faint blue light, and turned into a beam of light to kill Bai Yi. Come. Even attacks targeting the soul can't kill it. It seems that your soul power is not weak. I hope you can let me collect 10 more soul fragments later. Bai Yi sneered and waved his staff. The absorption shield that had cracks reappeared under the intensive attacks of other monsters was immediately repaired, and a terrifying shock wave erupted, directly knocking away all the monsters surrounding the shield like a zombie siege. Many monsters were also killed along the way. Rumble. The terrifying blow of the Nightmare Spider Queen arrived and landed on the absorption shield. A powerful blow caused the absorption shield to tremble crazily, and dense cracks quickly appeared. A solemn look appeared on Bai Yi's face, and he input magic power without hesitation to continue repairing the shield. But at the same time, other monsters are also coming. Even though Bai Yi killed many, there were still hundreds of monsters surrounding him. Bai Yi, if it doesn't work, let me help you fight together. The sound of mountain cannon sounded behind him, and he got up from the ground with blood on his face, looking determined. There are such a large number of monsters. Although he knows that Bai Yi is very powerful, he still doesn't think Bai Yi can solve them. What's more, as a dwarf, he is embarrassed to watch from the side. Hearing this, Bai Yi took a look and released a burst of sacred flames to restore the mountain cannon's injuries and evoked a sneer. Shanpao, don't underestimate me, I'm just a monster, I'm a mage. Many monsters, I am a master. The thing that master is not afraid of the most is that there are too many monsters. Shadow Energy Cannon. Bai Yi waved his staff to support the energy shield, and at the same time, a shadow energy cannon exploded forward. The terrifying attraction spread out, drawing countless monsters together in an instant. At the same time, Bai Yi's heart moved, his magic power surged, and he was released with overwhelming force. A forbidden magic spear condensed and penetrated towards the Nightmare Spider Queen again, nailing her to the ceiling and unable to move, which also interrupted her attack. Finally, the dead dragon reappears. Bang 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 bang. At a glance, all the monsters in the entire hall died instantly. At the same time, there was a roar, and the shadow energy cannon exploded, but all that could be exploded were the corpses of the monsters. The only one alive is the Nightmare Spider Queen on the ceiling above her head. Such a scene immediately made the mountain gun behind him stunned and shocked. My dear ancestors, how come my good brother is so big? There were hundreds of monsters, and they were not weak monsters like corruptors, they were all very powerful. But at this moment, they all died in an instant. There are no terrifying fluctuations sweeping across. There are no fancy special effects. He only saw the huge dragon head emerging, looked at where the monsters were, and then seemed to hear countless explosions. Immediately afterwards, all these monsters lost their sight. Even though their bodies were intact, they lost their vitality and lost their lives. Weird. Fear. Normally, when mountain gunners see this scene, they will feel cold from the bottom of their hearts, because they are completely confused. But at this moment, after the shock, a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. Ha ha ha, you are indeed my friend. You are so powerful, I swear, you are definitely the strongest mage I have ever seen. Shan Pao couldn't help laughing excitedly. That's right, because Bai Yi is his friend. The stronger the friend, the more face he will have as Bai Yi's friend. Haha, actually, I also think I am the most powerful mage. Bai Yi turned back and grinned at the mountain cannon, then looked at the only nightmare spider queen above his head, with a flash of coldness in his eyes. It's your turn to die. All the last mana was poured in. The cutting blade condensed and flew away invisibly. Nightmare spider queen could not see anything, but could feel the fatal threat. The spider hairs all over her body stood up like needles, and she struggled frantically to escape from the place. But as soon as he made a move, the cutting blade arrived. Puff! In just an instant, the body of the nightmare spider queen was split into two pieces, like fragile paper, without any resistance at all. At the same time, the separated body is like a smooth mirror, with smooth cuts and even reflections. Bang! The corpse of the nightmare spider queen fell to the ground. Bai Yi dispersed the absorption shield, and with a bang, he sat down on the ground and gasped. This wave is very handsome. But Tai Niang's magic power was also consumed a lot. With his magic power, it was all consumed in this short period of time. It is conceivable that if it were him, if it were another person, if anyone else comes, they will definitely die miserably. And luckily Bai Yi is here, otherwise if it were the dwarves, even if the entrance to the secret realm is stable and there is no limit on the number of people, they will all die here in the end. This shows how terrifying it is here. But the end result was a feast of slaughter for him. Thinking of this, Bai Yi couldn't help but have an excited smile on his face. Cool, ha ha ha, Bai Yi couldn't help laughing. Just like the meat pigeon game, this wave made him feel happy. The face of Shan Pao on the side was still full of excitement, and he couldn't help coming over to support Bai Yi and laughed. Bai Yi, you are really too strong. I swear, I have never seen such a powerful spell like yours. Division. Quote, to be honest, it's a pity that you are not a dwarf, let alone a woman. Otherwise, I would definitely fall in love with you and pursue you. He said it very seriously. But Bai Yi was so f'd up. No need to. Let it go. Bai Yi quickly asked the mountain cannon to let go of him. He was really afraid that there was something wrong with this bearded dwarf's sexual orientation. There are no enemies anyway, and the magic power can be slowly restored without affecting the movement. Next, it is his harvest moment. In addition to the corpse of the nightmare spider queen that could be collected, more importantly, the moment he stepped here, he discovered a gold treasure chest on the spider web above his head. And in addition to this golden treasure chest, shadows of treasure chests were also seen in other places in the hall. Not to mention there are some rooms with closed doors. As the mountain cannon said at the beginning, here, he might also find powerful weapons forged by the dwarves, which made him full of expectations. Let's collect it first. Bai Yi rubbed his hands and walked straight to the body of the nightmare spider queen. After walking closer, he noticed a large hole in the ceiling above his head, leading directly to the outside. It's no wonder that the door of this dwarf castle is closed, but there are many monsters inside. Bai Yi suddenly said. After all, the gate of the dwarf castle is extremely strong, but when it is closed tightly, it turns into a monster's lair. Shaking his head, Bai Yi reached out and touched the corpse of the nightmare spider queen. Collection is successful. You have obtained Soul Fragment X1 and Spiritual Seed X1. Close black lens bracket. Bai Yi's eyes lit up and he smiled happily. I actually collected it, and there is also a spiritual seed. Bai Yi quickly opened the backpack and looked at it. Needless to say, soul fragments, but spiritual seeds made Bai Yi full of curiosity. Open black lens bracket spiritual seed. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The spiritual seed is only born in monsters with strong mental power. It is a precious thing condensed from pure spiritual power. After use, it can enhance one's mental power without any side effects. Close black lens bracket. Hiss, so fierce. Bai Yi's eyes widened as he looked at the introduction of the items on the phone screen. Strengthening mental strength without any side effects is not ordinary. Especially for him as a mage. After all, as a mage, he has extremely high demands for mental power. Because for a mage, the stronger the mental power, the more powerful the spells he casts, and the more magic power he has in his body. It is no exaggeration to say that items that enhance mental power are the most desired treasures for mages, but this item is too precious. I didn't expect that the nightmare spider queen would have it in her body. But thinking about it, the Nightmare Spider Queen herself is a monster known for her mental power. With this thing here, even if there are no good things in the next treasure chest, I can accept it, ha ha ha. Bai Yi grinned and used the spiritual seed directly without any hesitation. Suddenly, he felt a cool feeling coming from the depths of his mind. Immediately afterwards, I felt that my mental power began to grow. Very quickly, it grew by 1/3 at once and then stopped. As his mental power increased, Bai Yi felt many changes in his body in an instant. First of all, he became more comfortable controlling magic. Secondly, under the influence of mental power, the magic power in the body is also increasing. Finally, it is because the mental power affects the 5 senses, making his perception more acute. Woohoo, take off. Bai Yi's smile on his face and his improvement in strength always make people feel happy. And in addition to the spiritual seed, there are exactly 2 soul fragments. After today's exploration is over, I can synthesize them. After all, they are soul-related materials, how can I synthesize something good? Thinking of this, the smile on Bai Yi's face became even bigger. Looking at the gold treasure chest, Bai Yi walked over with anticipation. Because he had already gotten something good, he opened it without any hesitation. A loud bang. The light blooms. A prompt pops up immediately on the phone screen. You opened the gold treasure chest and obtained Discovery X1, Granite X100, and Special Curtain X100. Close black lens bracket. Huh, is this another good thing coming out? Seeing the prompt content, Bai Yi looked stunned, a little in disbelief. He got a lot of good things today. As the saying goes, luck is always a good thing. When you are too unlucky, you will always have good luck. Similarly, when you are too lucky, you will always have bad luck. He thought that nothing good could be found in the golden treasure chest this time, but it seemed that he thought too much and he still had good luck. But what is this discovery? Touching his chin, Bai Yi looked confused and opened his backpack to check. Discovery. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The atmosphere of darkness has long spread, and many people have already predicted the end of the world. In order to still enjoy life in the darkness, a strong academic man has already made preparations. He used magic and materials to build an exploration vehicle. The RV allows you to have a movable resting place even in the dark. Close black lens bracket. After use, you can get the Discovery RV. The Discovery RV has all room facilities, sofas, bars, refrigerators, bathrooms and other facilities. At the same time, because of its exploration capabilities, it has good defense capabilities, hiding capabilities, and attack capabilities. Close black lens bracket. FK. RV. Bai Yi was dumbfounded. Can you still drive this thing? All right. He remembered that someone had opened a similar prop in his previous life. After all, there are forces like the Academy in the Dark Land, and some modern technological products are naturally available in the Dark Land, but this is the first time he has seen a RV. And this RV, from the introduction, seems to be very effective. Apart from anything else, which RV have you seen that can be attacked? In addition to attacking, it seems that you can also become invisible. Of course, the most important thing is that the facilities in this RV are quite complete, and it feels like you have everything. But what's the use to me? Bai Yi's mouth twitched slightly, a little speechless. You can't control a character to explore a dark place in an RV, right? He is a man with a mount. Hey, if you think about it carefully, it doesn't seem useless. Suddenly, Bai Yi touched his chin and thought carefully, then a smile appeared on his face. Although this thing is useless in the game, it seems to work in reality. After darkness falls, if you want to take Zybel and others out to explore together, you will have a mount, but they will not. A RV will be able to make up for this. The most important thing is that as a RV, it seems that I can use it now. I just need to get a license plate. All I need to do is contact the official. With my relationship with the official, I can get a license plate. 1. The procedures and so on. Isn't it simple? Thinking of this, Bai Yi made a decision. When the game is over today, we will bring this thing into reality. Moreover, the information about the RV is not completely introduced in the introduction. You have to see the real situation on your own when the time comes. In general, when darkness falls, it will be much easier to explore in the future if you have an RV with you. In addition to discovery, the other two materials in the treasure chest are also good. Granite is a rare stone and quite good. Needless to say, the special curtain is the material for the projection wall and is just what is needed. He was still very satisfied with the reward from this treasure chest. Withdrawing his gaze, Bai Yi turned his head and began to look for other treasure boxes in the space, collecting some monsters along the way. Collection is successful. You get the Nightmare Ghost Spider's Mental Toxin X1, the Ghost Spider's Fangs X2, and the Ghost Spider's Silk X4. Close black lens bracket. Collection is successful. You have obtained the Nightmare Ghost Spider's Mental Toxin X2, the Ghost Spider's Fangs X4, and the Ghost Spider's Silk X3. Close black lens bracket. Collection is successful. You get the Mental Poison of the Dream Devil Spider X1, the Ghost Spider Fangs X3, and the Ghost Spider Silk X3. Close black lens bracket. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. These collected materials are also useful. Because after all, it is not an ordinary material, it is produced from the Nightmare Ghost Spider. Whether it is toxins, spider webs or fangs, it all has certain spiritual effects. Waiting for the future, maybe it will have some unique uses. There are just too many, and it will take a lot of time to collect them all. Collect and explore at the same time. After a while, Bai Yi saw a silver treasure chest and two black iron treasure chests. Bai Yi, do you want to open the treasure chest? At this time, Shan Pao, who had been resting aside, came over and asked curiously. Although he was healed by Bai Yi's sacred flames, he suffered mental damage. The sacred flames could only alleviate but could not cure him. He also rested for a long time before recovering. Yes, it just so happens that my magic power is almost exhausted. I will rest here for a while to recover. Bai Yi nodded and said. Hearing this, Shan Pao scratched his head and smiled. In that case, I'll go take a look in these rooms on the side. If there's a treasure chest, I'll get it for you. Okay, but be careful, there might be monsters. Bai Yi thought for a while and didn't refuse. Haha, don't worry, I'm still capable of dealing with monsters alone. Shan Pao slapped his chest and laughed, immediately turned around and walked towards some surrounding rooms. Bai Yi looked at his back, thought about it, and reminded him quickly. By the way, the mountain cannon, if you have some materials, equipment, etc., please bring them over for me. Damaged equipment is also fine. Good. Although he was confused as to why Bai Yi wanted the damaged equipment, Shan Pao didn't ask any more questions, nodded and agreed, then pushed open a room and walked in. Seeing this, Bai Yi didn't talk nonsense. With an expectant smile on his face, he walked straight to the location of the two black iron treasure chests and entered them. After all, the black iron treasure chest would be good if it could unlock some materials, but he didn't expect to unlock anything good. His appetite has long been whetted by silver and gold treasure chests. A mere black iron treasure chest can no longer be seen by me. Wow, the treasure chest opens, and a soft light emerges. You open the black iron treasure chest X2, and you obtain the magic fruit X1, orichalcum X10, and mithril X10. Close black lens bracket. Backquote damn it, black iron treasure chest, you are my god. Bai Yi's face changed suddenly, from calm to surprised. A magic fruit was actually found in the black iron treasure chest. To be honest, it was unbelievable. In addition to the magic fruit, there are also orichalcum and mithril, which are actually very good. But the most important thing is definitely the magic fruit. Bai Yi held it in his hand with a smile on his face. He had no idea of taking it, but was thinking about whether this thing could be synthesized. After pondering for a moment, he took out the only remaining bottle of intermediate magic potion, feeling a little moved. Other things can be left to be synthesized after the exploration is over, but the magic fruit is different. There is still a battle next. This thing is related to magic power. It can help you enhance your combat power. It can definitely be synthesized immediately. It will be synthesized immediately. It was mainly the problem of the synthesis plan that made him hesitate. The magic potion was actually good, but it was not a top-notch magic potion after all, so he was a little dissatisfied. But after thinking about it, Bai Yi's eyes were bright. He put away the magic potion, and took out another long-lost item from his backpack. Lich Heart. I kept it until now. I originally thought of using it to synthesize professional runes and the like, but I didn't expect that it would be used here now. I hope you won't disappoint me. Bai Yi murmured, his eyes shining with anticipation, and he chose synthesis without hesitation. The lish's heart is of high value. It has not been used before just because I wanted to combine it with the same precious items to obtain an even more precious treasure. But I haven't found the right one yet. As for the magic fruit, it's just okay. Although the value is in the eyes of most people, well, Zhao. Not as good as Lish's heart, but not too far behind. After making the decision, Bai Yi clicked on the synthesis to begin. Immediately the screen glowed. Under the light, the two items began to move closer and gradually merged into one. The next moment, the synthesis was successful and a prompt appeared on the screen. The synthesis is successful, you have obtained the magic heart. I like this name. Bai Yi's eyes suddenly brightened, showing excitement, and he checked the information about the newly acquired item without hesitation. Heart of Magic. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. This is a heart containing huge magic power. It does not originate from any living being, but is formed naturally from heaven and earth. For any magical life, this is a rare treasure that is extremely rare. It allows any magical creature to gain double its current magic power. Close black lens bracket. At the same time, according to rumors, any creature that takes this fruit-like heart will receive a mysterious gift. Close black lens bracket. Limited to 1 serving per person. Close black lens bracket. Amazing. Looking at the introduction, Bai Yi looked shocked, and then his eyes became hot. Just by looking at the introduction, he knew that he had synthesized this thing correctly. It is simply the treasure that a mage dreams of. It can actually double the magic power. Hiss. Bai Yi's magic power is already huge now, if this is doubled. He could hardly imagine how huge it was. Of course, what is even more anticipated is the so-called mysterious gift. Do you still need to hesitate? Obviously not needed. Bai Yi picked up the fruit and swallowed it in one bite. Pure magic power emerged and wandered in the body, as if sweeping through the whole body, and finally integrated into his own magic power. Immediately afterwards, Bai Yi felt the magic power in his body, as if it had turned into threads, spreading towards the heart one by one, and began to wrap and entangle the heart. This feeling is amazing. Bai Yi closed his eyes involuntarily and entered a magical state, like God watching his body in time and being able to see everything in his body clearly. He saw the magic flowing inside his body. I also saw that the heart in my body was filled with magic power and beating. Every time it beat, the magic power in the heart was like a volcano erupting. The magic power spurted out and then returned to the heart. In this state, his magic power continues to grow. Unknowingly, Bai Yi opened his eyes filled with excitement. So strong. Looking at his hands, he could see pure magic light gathering in his palms just by moving his heart. The doubled magic power can completely transform him into a spell fort. But besides magic, there is another point. He looked at the screen, and a prompt popped up on it. You have gained a new talent, the blessing of magic. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The surging magic power is lingering around you. You are loved by the magic power. The magic power recovery speed is increased by 50% and the magic power is increased by 10%. Close black lens bracket. A new talent. And it's such a powerful talent. Is this the mysterious gift? Bai Yi grinned, unable to conceal his excitement. Although it seems that the effect of this talent is not top-notch, just okay, but it depends on the specific situation. For a person with little magic power, this talent would be very average, and it would only increase the power by 1%, which is okay. But for people with huge magical power, it is terrifying. Even if there is no 10% increase in power, it is still the same. After all, 50% of the magic power recovery speed is outrageous for a mage with huge magic power. As long as you grasp the timing of casting spells well, you can still maintain full magic power after a battle. Moreover, he also has a Dragonborn. The Dragonborn himself gives him extremely fast magic recovery speed, and coupled with this talent, it is enough to make this talent comparable to top talents in Bai Yi. And right now, he has already felt the terror brought by this talent. The magic power that was originally only restored to about half was now recovering at a rapid rate. In just a short time, it was fully restored. The magic power is doubled, coupled with this terrifying magic power recovery speed. What monsters, what numbers. Labor and management are killing each other. Take off, ha ha ha. Bai Yi couldn't help but laugh, and even now began to long for thousands of monsters to appear in front of him. In this way, he could enter the spell turret posture and start killing them like crazy. It's a pity that the monsters have been killed long ago, so we can only wait until we enter a deeper area. Shaking his head, Bai Yi took a deep breath to calm down, then walked towards the silver treasure chest, rubbed his cheeks, and while he was completely calm, he opened the silver treasure chest with anticipation. Suddenly, light emerged. You opened the silver treasure chest, and you got 1,000 iron, 1,000 wood, 1,000 stone, and a forest storage box. Close black lens bracket. Sure enough, if you always have good luck, you will always have bad luck. Looking at the reward in front of him, Bai Yi twitched the corner of his mouth, without any surprise. A silver treasure chest actually opened up a bunch of basic resources, which was an incredible feat. But fortunately there is a forest storage box. Just by looking at the name, you can tell that this is furniture. It looks like a huge box, but it has branches, leaves, flowers and other patterns on the surface, which looks very beautiful and beautiful. Of course, don't think that's all. In fact, there is something inside the storage box. The most important thing is the storage effect. It can be understood as the player's backpack, which has 5 grids. The same items can be stacked without an upper limit. This is what is really important about the storage box. And it will also be a bestseller among players in the future. After all, this thing is really convenient for storage, especially when used to store basic resources. It can save most of the space. Although it is of no use to Bai Yi now because he now has a player backpack. But after darkness fell, ACE was gone. Anyway, in his memory, after darkness fell in the previous life, the backpack function was not retained. Therefore, the more storage bins you have in your shelter, the more space you can create in your shelter. It would be better if we develop a space bracelet. Bai Yi murmured. It was a prop similar to a backpack after darkness fell. It also had grids, which was very rare. Although you don't need it now, you can prepare it in advance. Bai Yi shook his head and continued searching, and found another black iron treasure box in a corner not far away. But this time there was still nothing good, only some moldy bread and other food. Bai Yi didn't need it, but he could give it to mountain cannons. The food the dwarves eat is all black. Bai Yi had noticed it by chance before. It should be made from some uncontaminated weeds and insects that he found. Just that thing, some dwarves still ate it with gusto. You can imagine how difficult their wandering journey is. After putting away these foods, there will be no trace of the treasure box in this hall. At this time, the mountain cannon's exclamation suddenly came from a room. Is there really a monster? Let you see the power of the mountain cannon. Boom! The sound of fighting broke out. Bai Yi twitched the corner of his mouth. He always felt that it was a little weird when Shan Pao called out his name. But he walked over immediately. I didn't notice it just now, but the chef actually explored the third room. When Bai Yi came over, he happened to see the mountain cannon in the room swinging a hatchet. The axe hit an amputee on the head. The powerful force directly blew the amputee away, and a deep wound appeared on the head. Blood spurts. Roar. The amputee did not die, but instead screamed like a demon roaring, quickly stood up and spit out his long tongue, like a sharp arrow. The mountain cannon hurriedly raised its shield to block him, but the powerful force blew him away. Before he could get up, the amputee had already rushed over. Bai Yi, my friend, help. I can't beat you, why can't I win over you? Behind my mountain cannon, there is a powerful human mage friend. Shan Pao shouted without saying anything. After all, he didn't want to die in such a miserable state. He didn't help at all along the way. He finally tried to help Bai Yi find some treasure chests. If he died on the way to find the treasure chests, he would feel that he would not be able to see his ancestors. Bai Yi, who was standing at the door, couldn't help but rolled his eyes when he heard the shouts of the mountain cannon, but he still waved his staff. Holy flame! Boom! The golden flame roared away and engulfed it instantly. He couldn't even make a scream, and he had already melted. You're lucky that I'm here, mountain cannon. I think you'd be really sorry if you didn't build an artifact for me when you got to Ironforge. Bai Yi said helplessly. Hearing this, when Shan Pao saw Bai Yi walking towards him, he immediately smiled with joy as if he had survived the disaster. As for Bai Yi, He scratched his head and said with a naive smile. Haha, my friend, I knew you came in time, but even though I want to help you with the artifact or something, I don't have the ability. In the history of the dwarves, only the descendants of the king's blood have created artifacts. But in addition to the artifact, I will help you build a powerful mage weapon. There was a determined expression on his face. Dwarves repay kindness. Along the way after entering the secret realm, Shanpao didn't know how many times Bai Yi had helped him. He had owed him several favors. Needless to say, Bai Yi had already collected precious materials when he returned to Ironforge. The idea of helping Bai Yi create powerful mage weapons. Hearing this, Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Just when he was about to say something, he suddenly froze and remembered something. Then he looked at the mountain cannon and asked curiously, Shanpao, do you have a wife? No, I don't even have enough wine to drink. If I find a wife, wouldn't I be able to drink at all? Shanpao shook his head quickly. Bai Yi's eyes immediately brightened and he smiled. Then I'll introduce you to a wife, do you want her? Hey, introduce me to your wife. Shanpao couldn't help but show a puzzled expression, scratched his head and asked doubtfully. As my friend, I know you will never harm me, but I remember that the beauties you humans like are all ugly to us dwarves, and I don't like ugly girls. Haha, you are overthinking. What I am introducing to you is not a human being, but a dwarf. Dwarf, could it be that Bai Yi you know other dwarves? Shanpao was very curious. Bai Yi showed a smile on his face and nodded with a smile. Naturally, he only knew people like Shanpao in this life, but he knew them in the previous life. In particular, he remembered that there was a dream lover among the dwarves. As long as the mountain cannon survived and arrived at Ironforge alive, they would definitely know each other. Because the other party is the biological sister of this generation of Dwarf King. A dwarf who also has the blood of the Dwarf King and has extremely high forging skills. In Bai Yi's memory, this female dwarf forged many powerful weapons for Ironforge. Because of these weapons, many strong men were born among the dwarves, played a vital role in its development. Just the appearance is beyond words for Bai Yi, a human being. Even though she has big shoulders and a round waist, she also has a sausage mouth. Before seeing her, no one would have thought that a 1.4-meter female dwarf weighed 300 pounds. But to dwarves, it is a goddess-level existence. But that's not important. Anyway, it's not that he wants to conquer the opponent, he just wants to draw attention to the mountain cannon. Bai Yi grinned. Hey, Shanpao, you really should thank me. Without me, you would definitely not know that the current Dwarf King has a sister, and she is very beautiful. I mean, for you dwarves, she is very beautiful. It is said that many when the dwarves saw her for the first time, they were intoxicated by her beauty. What? Wang has a sister? Hearing this, Shanpao's eyes widened immediately, obviously shocked by the news. For ordinary dwarves, this is obviously a secret. But then, it just looked unsuspecting. Is it really as beautiful as you say? Certainly. Bai Yi nodded affirmatively and said. I'll give you a description. She has big shoulders, a round waist, a body full of tendons, and a charming red beard with twists and turns. And I heard that her blacksmithing skills are very powerful. Can you imagine the beauty of this goddess? Quote. I can imagine it. Shanpao's description of Bai Yi was full of yearning, and he couldn't help but blush slightly. Seeing this, Bai Yi grinned and increased his strength. Think about it, such a beautiful dwarf, especially. She is also the biological sister of your Dwarf King. If you catch her, you will definitely not be short of wine, and you can also learn the skills of forging from her. Most importantly, you will definitely enjoy the jealousy of other dwarves. Jealous eyes. I can't even imagine how happy your life would be if you succeeded. After all, your Dwarf King will definitely love his sister very much, and there will definitely be no shortage of drinks and stuff. Gulu is okay, it seems so, but can I really do it? Sure. Bai Yi nodded seriously and made suggestions. I have a secret message. I heard that she likes handsome dwarves with forked beards. You can give it a try then. Forked who? Real or fake? Really, you believe me? Bai Yi nodded. Although it is outrageous. But it's true. Because in the last life, the person who took the Dwarf King's sister was a human. In order to get a soft meal, the guy directly targeted the Dwarf King's sister. After collecting information in Ironforge for half a month, he found what the other party liked, and Ju captured her. The news shocked many people at the time. I don't know how many people admire him. After all, even though he hugged the dwarf king's thigh, with his size, he really had to be pressed down by the female dwarf every night, which was not something ordinary people would dare to do. Seeing Bai Yi being so sure, Shan Pao couldn't help but get excited, but said a little shyly. I can give it a try. If it is as good as you said, I will definitely go. Pursue her. Quote, haha, you will know when you see her, she will definitely haunt you. Bai Yi laughed. If this is really successful, given my relationship with the mountain cannon, I will not say that I will actually build an artifact, but some legendary weapons and so on, I have to get a few, right? And he can also take this opportunity to establish a relationship with the dwarf royal family. Earn money with blood. Shan Pao has already told Bai Yi what he was thinking about. But Bai Yi just mentioned it, told the other party his information, and then returned to normal. How's it going? Did you find anything? Shan Pao came back to his senses, scratched his head and said. There are no treasure chests in the first 2 rooms, but there are some materials, such as mithril, orichalcum, etc. I got them all together. You can go and get them later. As for the equipment, I haven't seen it yet. I just entered this room. Okay, I'll get it later. Bai Yi nodded. The material was not bad. You can never have too much of this kind of material anyway. As for this room, he and Shan Pao explored it together. However, after walking around, I found nothing but materials. You picked up marble X10 and obsidian X50. Close black lens bracket. You picked up orichalcum X20 and mithril X2-0. Close black lens bracket. You picked up wood X200, stone X200, and iron X200. Close black lens bracket. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. There are many rooms in this area. In addition to the 3 rooms on the first floor, there are more rooms on the second floor. There are rooms all around. Not surprisingly, it should be the dormitory of the dwarves who once lived here. Bai Yi and Shan Pao searched for resources separately. In addition to Bai Yi's needs, Shan Pao actually also wants to find some food, because they still have a long journey after finding the heart of the volcano, so they need enough food. Any bit of food can increase their chances of reaching the iron furnace alive. The probability of fort. As for ores and metals, although they also wanted it very much, they had no choice but to give up because of the weight. Anyway, when you get to Ironforge, you can have everything, as long as you stay alive. Pushing open a room, Bai Yi walked in, glanced at it, and immediately raised the corners of his mouth. Not bad, a good start. 11. A bronze treasure box appeared in front of him, lying quietly on the bed. However, there was also a dwarf's corpse lying on the ground in the room, with a lot of blood on the side. Because it had been dead for too long, it had been reduced to a white skeleton. There were some broken wine bottles, but nothing else. Come to the bed, reach out and open it day and night. You opened the bronze treasure chest and obtained X2 flower carpets and thermometer drawings. Close black lens bracket. There is actually a blueprint. Bai Yi raised his eyebrows, looked at it, and immediately showed a look of surprise. This thing, to put it bluntly, can be understood as a central air conditioner, but it is the Darkland version, and it is a magical technology studied by the academic school. The materials used are mostly magic materials. He doesn't have it yet, so he can only leave it alone. Good. After leaving here, Bai Yi went to the next room. Probably because bad luck really came, there were no treasure chests in the next 5 rooms, and there were a lot of resources, including orichalcum and mithril. In addition, there are some ordinary weapons. There are many such as iron swords, axes, and shields. Bai Yi didn't take them all, but left some for the mountain cannons. They also wanted weapons. It took Bai Yi and Shan Pao almost half an hour to search the entire second floor. Except for the treasure box in the first room, he never saw the second treasure box. But Shan Pao brought him 2 bronze treasure chests. Haha, Bai Yi, I was lucky. In addition to finding a lot of food, I also got 2 treasure chests. I brought them all for you. Shan Pao walked over with 2 treasure boxes in his arms and said with a smile on his face. In addition to the treasure chest, there are also some ores and metals. I got them all together. You can take them away if you want. Okay, thank you. Bai Yi smiled and nodded. Shan Pao gave up and said nothing, but happily picked up a bottle of wine and drank it. This was the only bottle of magma wine he had just found on the entire second floor, but he was greedy for it. This was the wine he could only drink before darkness fell. When I first found it, I wanted to go back and drink it secretly, but I couldn't help it. After taking a sip of the sketch, he couldn't help but sigh in a comfortable voice. Sure enough, this kind of strong wine is more suitable for me than fruit wine. If I could drink a bottle like this every day, I would die without regrets. Then your death is too worthless. Bai Yi said funny, and immediately opened the 2 bronze treasure boxes together. You opened 2 bronze treasure chests and obtained fertile soil x100, light and shadow stone x10, violent bull's horn x1, and communication module x1. Close black lens bracket. Not bad. When Bai Yi saw the reward, he nodded slightly, showing satisfaction. Nothing particularly great, but at least it's pretty good. Light and shadow stones are required for the construction of the wall of projection. Needless to say, he doesn't need the communication module, but if it is sold, the value will not be low. As for fertile soil, let alone that. After darkness falls, as long as someone wants to farm land, there will definitely be no one to buy it. On the contrary, it was the horns of the raging bull that brought him a surprise. The horns of the raging bull. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Raging bulls are a special kind of extraordinary beast. They have a violent personality and are powerful. They have sharp and hard horns, which contain all their energy. A full blow can crush mountains. They are very good weapons. Forging materials. Close black lens bracket. This thing is a garden of surprises. After all, you can tell from the introduction that this is a very good synthetic material. At present, the only thing in his hand that is suitable for synthesis is the violent ring. And the ring of fury. Well, if I don't say it, it would be uncomfortable if I did. Next, Bai Yi went to collect all the materials for the mountain cannon. When he was about to continue setting off, Mia entered the room at some point and was lying pitifully on Bai Yi's shoulders, holding herself up. Bai Yi couldn't help laughing because of his growling stomach. Okay, I know you're hungry, so I'm going to make lunch. Hee, Bai Yi is the best. Hearing this, Mia immediately smiled happily, kissed Bai Yi affectionately, and then happily returned to the living room to play games. Looking out the window, Bai Yi didn't expect that the time had come to noon without knowing it. He could only explain the situation to Shan Pao and decided to take Shan Pao back to the camp and continue exploring after lunch. Hearing this, Shan Pao was shocked. Go back. Isn't it necessary? Isn't it a waste of time? Won't. Bai Yi shook his head and said. Have you forgotten what kind of mage I am? Hiss, that's right, you are a space mage. Shan Pao looked stunned, then became excited again. It would be nice if he could go back. After all, he collected a lot of food on his body and it was tiring to carry it around. He could just go back and brag to the tribesmen about his exploration of killing with Bai Yi, which would definitely make those guys one by one, with envious eyes. Thinking of this, he was somewhat looking forward to it for a while. Bai Yi smiled, and after locking the node here, he grabbed the mountain cannon and directly used teleportation. If it were before, he might not have had this idea. After all, it was too mana consuming. Teleporting 2 people once was enough to drain his magic power. Plus, there is no magic source today. But now, there is no such worry at all. Even if all his magic power is exhausted, with his current recovery speed, he will be full of mana in the blink of an eye. With a flash of blue light, the 2 people disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in the camp again. Okay Shan Pao, I'll leave first and come back after lunch. Bai Yi looked slightly pale and said to the mountain cannon. Shan Pao nodded and laughed. Go ahead, my friend. To be honest, it is obviously a dangerous exploration, but because of your ability, it gave me a feeling of traveling. I can actually come back for lunch. It feels really good. Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Bai Yi shook his head and laughed, but he stopped talking nonsense and went offline directly. He got up and went to the kitchen to busy himself with lunch. Huh, why are you here too? As soon as he entered the kitchen, Bai Yi looked puzzled as he looked at Zybel who was following behind him. Of course I'm helping you, and learning cooking skills by the way. Zybel shrugged and explained. After all, I can't help you much now. I can only stay by your side playing with my phone and watching videos every day, so I want to learn to cook to help you save more time to explore in the dark place. That's a good idea. I'm optimistic about you. Bai Yi raised the corner of his mouth and expressed disapproval. Who can not love a woman who takes the initiative to think about herself? Just teaching a succubus without any foundation is a bit tiring. Lunch, which could have been done in half an hour, actually took an hour to solve. Looking at the sumptuous dishes on the dining table, Bai Yi said angrily to Zybel. I think next time you should learn it slowly by yourself while I play games. Humph, you stinky man, you have no patience at all. Sibel showed a contemptuous look. Bai Yi twitched the corner of his mouth. Ah, yes, yes. Don't argue with women. Let's eat. By the way, I took out my mobile phone and clicked into the forum to browse. As soon as he entered the forum, Bai Yi couldn't help showing a surprised expression. Because a pinned post posted 2 hours ago. Anyone who actively harms other players, once officially discovered, will be punished with death regardless of the result. The cold words made Bai Yi look confused and clicked in. After reading it, I couldn't help but frown. Are so many players causing trouble now? Perhaps it was because he was so powerful that no one dared to trouble him, so he couldn't feel it. But through this official post, I discovered that the recent domestic situation may not be ordinary. After all, if only a few players were causing trouble, such a post would not appear. Once discovered, regardless of the outcome, they would be punished with death. Point 0. This is obviously a situation that can only occur after many players take action against each other. Although it shouldn't affect ordinary people like the previous life, I'm afraid it won't have a low impact on players. Bai Yi murmured in his heart. Once someone successfully kills another player and reaps the benefits, it will be difficult to stop. Just keep picking other targets, and they will continue to become stronger in the process. Even when my self-confidence swelled in the end, I just couldn't tell. Afraid? Not really. At this stage, there is no player who can scare Bai Yi. I just find it a bit troublesome. But there is nothing to do. After all, he can't influence the actions of others. I just hope those guys have something good with them when they come knocking. Bai Yi thought secretly. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, the phone started vibrating. Suddenly an application popped up among my friends. User, Daxia, invites you to join the mutual aid discussion group. Do you want to join? Close black lens bracket. Discussion group. What? Bai Yi looked stunned, and after thinking for a while, he agreed. Then an interface similar to a chat group appeared on the screen. There weren't many people, just 4. And they are all acquaintances of Bai Yi. Nimang, Wangxi and Huel. Wangxi, the boss finally came in, welcome. Nimang, haha, look, I said he must be eating at this time and not playing games. Huel, welcome brother Bai to join us. Seeing the news about these 3 people, Bai Yi's mouth twitched. What's going on? Huel, let me explain. The main purpose of establishing this group is to enable us all to communicate more closely, and at the same time, it will also facilitate everyone's future transactions. If you need anything or don't need anything, you can tell me here. It's an internal trade fair. Wangxi, yes, the boss won't mind, right? Nimang, although there are not many people, there will definitely be no shortage of good things to trade in the future. Seeing this, Bai Yi nodded thoughtfully. He believed Nimang's words. Apart from anything else, given the identities of these few people, the value of the things being traded cannot be low. A young man, an official background, not to mention a young lady with both hands. The resources behind these 3 people are immeasurable. Most of the materials Bai Yi will need in the future can probably be obtained from these 3 people. But, these 3 guys didn't form this group just because they wanted me to help forge weapons, right? He couldn't help but mutter. Shaking his head, Bai Yi calmed down and looked at the screen of his mobile phone while eating. It's just a small group of 4 people, good guys, but the news is constant. Wallah, the weapons I bought from brother Bai Yi are so powerful, ha ha ha. I killed a lot of monsters in the past 2 days and opened a lot of treasure chests. I also discovered a building complex yesterday. Wangxi, hey, I also want to say that this weapon is really powerful. In addition, I received a copy of the Ranger Professional Runes today. Nimang, tisk, you actually all have Bai Yi's weapons, but I don't, right? At 111,111. You can figure it out. 111,111. I knew it. Sure enough, after talking about an internal trade fair, he still targeted me. Rolling his eyes, Bai Yi replied, "Stop dreaming, I don't have time recently." Ni Meng, it doesn't matter, I can wait until you have time. Walla, hee, actually I can wait for you, brother Bai Yi, shy. Wang Si, no, we agreed that we should all compete fairly, but we are not allowed to use honey traps. Ni Meng, if the honey trap was effective, I would have used it long ago. Do you still need to tell me? Wang Si, hey, that's good. It would be very unfair to me if you could use a honey trap. Walla, tisk, you can also use the beauty trick. Wang Si, if the boss is willing, it's not impossible. Ni Meng, Huel, 111,111, 6. 111111. If you don't try it, how will you know that the honey trap doesn't work? Bai Yi raised the corner of his mouth, smiled and sent out such a message. He finally understood that before establishing this group, these three people should have discussed it privately. The internal trading meeting is real, after all, the resources behind them are indeed huge. But it's also true to target yourself. The reason is simple. Currently, he is the only known player who can produce extraordinary equipment. This alone determines Bai Yi's irreplaceable uniqueness and preciousness. But after thinking about this, Bai Yi didn't care very much. Anyway, after all, as long as you pay, who can buy your own equipment? It's all harmless. What's more, apart from Walla, he and the other two are considered friends. As long as the price is right, it goes without saying that he will give priority to selling equipment to them. As for the honey trap, of course it is a joke. Wang Si, damn it, boss, don't do it. What do you want me to do? How about I give you a photo of a handsome man? 111111. Go away, I'm not interested in men. Wang Si, ooh, then you promise not to forget me just because of the beauty. Crying loudly. Huel, hey, brother Bai Yi, the photo has been privately chatted, shy. Wang Si, damn it, is there really one? Bai Yi's eyes suddenly widened and he looked stunned. After clicking on friends, sure enough, Huel actually sent a private message. Click to take a look. Hiss, so white, so tender. Is this illegal loli? Bai Yi didn't say anything and clicked save directly, deciding to enjoy it slowly in the future. Of course, don't get me wrong, it's actually not a silly picture, it's just a selfie taken by Huel, but because of the angle, it makes people think a lot. In particular, the face full of collagen has a faint blush, and when she is wearing JK and wrapped in white silk, it gives people a youthful and beautiful feeling, and it has a different kind of charm. Love it, love it. 111111. Good pictures collected. The other side, Magic City, Night Watchman Base. In the office, Vixen, Ni Meng looked at the message sent by Bai Yi on her phone and couldn't help gritting her teeth. She was just joking, but she didn't expect Huel to be serious. We agreed that we should all compete fairly, but this is how you compete. Okay, let's play like this, right? Who is not a beautiful girl? Looking down at the uniform he was wearing, as well as his perfect pair of long legs covered in black stockings, and his proud breasts, Ni Meng sneered, held up his phone, put one hand across his body and squeezed it, and then with a click, the photo was taken. There was no need to edit the pictures, and they were sent directly to Bai Yi. Then a message was posted in the discussion group. Ni Meng, brother Bai Yi, I also sent it, shy. Wang Si, okay, you all play like this, right? Do you think I don't know how to dress up as a woman? Wang Si gritted his teeth and immediately opened Taobao to start shopping. However, after thinking about it, he closed Taobao with a grimace. After all, if he dared to wear it, Bai Yi would really dare to block it. Damn it, I wouldn't have joined this discussion group if I had known better. Wang Si cursed and wanted to slap himself. As Bai Yi thought, the main reason for joining this discussion group was for the extraordinary equipment in Bai Yi's hands. After all, there are still not many extraordinary equipment at this stage. They need not only weapons, but also other accessories. As the only one who can create extraordinary equipment, Bai Yi's importance can be imagined. But Bai Yi is the only one who can create extraordinary equipment. There are countless players in the world who need extraordinary equipment. So after some discussion, in order to prevent Bai Yi's equipment from being sold to other people in the future, they started this discussion group, and everyone purchased equipment, items, etc. from Bai Yi in a fair competition. As a result, the world is going downhill, even though you were talking so well just a second ago. The next second they started playing a honey trap. That is to say, he is not a woman, otherwise he would just get up and run to Bai Yi's house, and lie down on the bed after entering the house. Naturally, Bai Yi didn't know what Wang Si was thinking. At this time, Bai Yi looked at the photo sent by Nimeng and suddenly felt his nose itchy. Hiss. Good guy, if Huol is an innocent legal loli that makes people feel like blasphemy, then Nimeng is really sexy. Especially the uniform and black stockings that perfectly hug the figure, tisk tisk tisk, not to mention how attractive she is. Click to save. 111111. Okay, send more, I like to watch. Voila. Hey, brother Bai Yi, if they send you more, can you sell the unwanted equipment to them? Nimeng. I want it too. Wang Si. Dad, more. Huol. Nimeng. Wang Si, you are Master Yida, please show some respect. Wang Si. Bah, you can pull them down. I'm not forcing them on you at 111,111. Dad, don't worry about them. If you have good things, don't forget me. 111111. 6. Okay, I do have something to offer here, but I just don't know if you are interested. Bai Yi actually doesn't have many things to sell. There are a lot of good things though. First is the enchanted thunder source crystal, and then is the violent ring. But he hasn't decided whether to sell these yet. Lei Yuanjing will definitely not take action because he needs it unless he can exchange it for better synthetic materials. As for the violent ring, you can consider it. But the trading module is definitely not needed, so you can consider selling it. Seeing the message sent by Bai Yi, the owner's eyes lit up. Although Huol only bought a rotten sword from Bai Yi, he also knew how valuable the thing in Bai Yi's hand was, otherwise he would not have joined this discussion group. Therefore, she said without hesitation, no matter what it is, as long as brother Bai Yi sells it, I want it. Okay, Vixen, this is how you play, right? Nimeng curled his lips and typed the same goes for others, brother Bai Yi. Wang Si twitched the corner of his mouth, silently deleted all the words, and typed, Dad. Bai Yi couldn't help but feel funny when watching this scene. At the same time, he didn't waste time and directly took a screenshot of the trading module and uploaded it to the discussion group. And added specific uses. 111111. See for yourselves and make an offer if necessary. No one knows yet about the coming of darkness. So he didn't know if they could see the value of this thing. After darkness falls, the trading module and the communication module are both items of low value in the module, but necessary. Even if any one of them is missing, it will cause great inconvenience. Without a communication module, there is a high probability of losing communication with other people, because by then the area will become vast, and you may be the only one in a large area. Without a trading module, no one will trade with you. There are so many monsters out there, so we can't meet offline, right? Who would take that risk? But Bai Yi obviously underestimated them in the game. The moment they saw the transaction module information, all three of them brightened up. Wang Si immediately found his father, handed over the phone, and said happily, Lao Dang, look at this. What? Lao Wang looked puzzled and looked at the picture. After looking at the effect of the module sent by Bai Yi, his eyes suddenly widened. Buy it, I will definitely get it. This is something you can't miss. Hey, Lao Dang, I have the same idea as you. I am asking you to get resources. I don't have anything good over there. Wang Si scratched his head and said awkwardly. Hearing this, Lao Wang nodded. Okay, I will ask someone to compile a list of resources. You can get anything you need. Hey, so powerful, what do you know? Lao Wang said angrily. You have no idea the true value of this thing. Isn't it just that it can make transactions more convenient and safer? What don't you understand? Wang Si said unhappily. Lao Wang smiled disdainfully. I told you, you definitely don't understand. Do you think it's just that simple? Don't even think about it. Since Bai Yi can sell this thing and explain its effects so clearly, do you think he will? Since he has it, do you think he would use it to trade? Wang Xi scratched his head and nodded blankly. Yes. In that case, do you think Bai Yi still prefers this online method compared to the current transaction method, which does not even require express delivery or waiting time? Does that need to be said? It's definitely the latter. Wang Xi said without hesitation. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Xi was stunned, reacted suddenly, and said, Lao Dang, are you saying that after we win this, as long as others don't have it, and we come up with a suitable price, Bai Yi will be more willing to trade with us? Because it's convenient and fast. Right, Lao Wang smiled and nodded, saying, this is one of the reasons why we must win this thing. After all, you will know if you think about it. I have something to sell. There are several buyers. Everyone bids the same, but there is one buyer. You can come directly to your home to pick up the goods, The buyer needs you to send it over, and you can tell who to choose at a glance. In this regard, the principle is the same. What's more, in addition to what Bai Yi said, there is also a My Store function, which also allows us to buy more things from Bai Yi. After all, the items he doesn't need may not be needed by us either. The most important thing is, regardless of whether this thing is hard to come by or not, more and more players will definitely have in the future. We can get it in advance. In this regard, we can also grab it in advance. Get the upper hand. Understood. Wang Xi suddenly understood and looked at his father with admiration. Lao Dang, you are more powerful. Otherwise, do you think your father has lived all these years in vain? Lao Wang sneered and gave up. Okay, let's get in touch quickly so that we don't get ahead of others. Hey, okay. Wang Xi nodded, turned around and left. At the same time, both Huel and Nimeng received the greatest support. They may not see it so clearly personally, but there are people behind them, and they understand the importance of the trading module in an instant. Of course, Bai Yi didn't know about this. After a hurried meal, Bai Yi returned to the room with a bottle of Coke. After enjoying the pleasure brought by the iced Coke, he also took advantage of the waiting time to come up with the idea of synthesis. Although I had previously thought of waiting for the exploration to be over, that's not how people are, their ideas are always changing. The goal of synthesis is naturally very clear. Soul fragments. In the previous battle, one could already see the power of soul targeting skills such as the Death Dragon's Gaze. He naturally hopes for another one. Although the soul fragments have little to do with skills after being synthesized, if powerful soul materials are synthesized, they may not be able to be synthesized with skills. Thinking of this, Bai Yi chose without hesitation. Soul fragments plus soul fragments. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the soul crystal. Close black lens bracket. Soul crystal. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. It is a crystal formed by condensing pure soul power. After taking it, the soul power will increase to a certain extent without any side effects. Close black lens bracket. Really? Looking at the prompts on the screen, Bai Yi raised the corner of his mouth slightly, without any surprise. After all, this result was already expected. The synthesis of two soul fragments will most likely be a soul-like material. The effect of the soul crystal is not bad, it can increase the soul. But after Bai Yi thought about it for a while, he did not choose to take it. Instead, he clicked on his attributes, checked his skills, and finally set his sights on specialization. Such a good material, if used for consumption, is not impossible. But Bai Yi would like to try to synthesize skills or specialize. Of course, talent is not impossible. After all, Bai Yi hasn't tried it yet and doesn't know if it can be synthesized. But none of his talents are currently available. Needless to say, the synthetic hand cannot be synthesized. The words of Dark Beloved are related to the power and consumption reduction of some skills, not to mention. There is no doubt about the blessing of magic power. He just got it and used it to match the Dragonborn. It can be regarded as a top talent. He will not think of combining it unless there are special circumstances. As for professional talents, the same is true. The Dragonborn is already powerful, and it also has a chain effect with the blessing of magic power, allowing him to recover his magic power very quickly. Shadow travel is a magical evasion skill during combat. Not to mention spatial sensing, it is impossible to synthesize it. Therefore, only specialization can be tried, because compared to talents, even if the synthesis result of specialization is wrong, the overall impact will not be great. The reason why Bai Yi chose the hunting mark was because he wanted the hunting mark to have higher growth potential. As a specialization ability equivalent to the passive skill, hunting mark can enhance the power of all subsequent attacks as long as one's attack hits the enemy. This is definitely a powerful specialization. It is precisely because of this that Bai Yi wants to make it more powerful. And again, even if the synthesis result is not in line with one's expectations, it will not affect the overall situation. At most, the power of the skill will be reduced. He can afford to fail. Therefore, after Bai Yi thought about it for a while, he made a decision and directly chose synthesis. Hunting mark plus soul crystal. Click compose. There was a crash. The light blooms. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the soul mark. Close black lens bracket. Soul mark. Bai Yi's eyes flickered and he immediately clicked on the properties. I found that this is a new specialization and has not become a skill or talent due to synthesis. After clicking to view, the information about the soul mark also appeared in front of you. Soul mark. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. As long as your attack hits the enemy, a soul mark will be attached to the enemy. All subsequent attacks will cause an additional 5% damage and 1% soul damage. Close black lens bracket. Hiss. Hunting mark has actually become a specialization for souls. Seeing the introduction, Bai Yi couldn't help but look happy and showed an expression of disbelief. Not only does it still have the amplifying effect, but it also has an extra 1% soul damage. Even though it's only 1%, it's for the soul. Due to the fragility of the soul, once damage is caused to it, the pain is completely incomparable to that of the physical body. In battle, there is a great possibility that the enemy will lose combat status and become extremely painful. This effect, to put it simply, is equivalent to a toxin, which allows Bai Yi's attacks to have dual effects. Take the holy flame as an example. As long as Bai Yi attaches a soul mark to the enemy, he can then attack with the holy flame. The enemy not only has to endure the terrifying heat, but also the pain deep in his soul. Who can withstand this? Given the mystery of the soul, not many people may have the means to defend themselves against it. To put it more bluntly, this is directly equivalent to a real attack. And unlike the dead dragon's gaze, this specialization allows Bai Yi to target the soul even with ordinary attacks. Ha ha ha, that's right, I am indeed the chosen one. Bai Yi laughed and wished he could immediately enter the game to continue exploring and find monsters to fight. It took a while for Bai Yi to calm down and continue to check the items in the backpack. After some hesitation, he planned to continue the synthesis. The phone suddenly started to move. After Bai Yi took a look, he closed the game and returned to the chat group in the forum. Huel has sent the message. Huel, brother Bai Yi, what do you think of these resources pictures? Before Bai Yi had time to click on it, the phone vibrated twice again. Nimeng and Wang Siqi both sent messages. These guys are quite in sync. Bai Yi chuckled lightly and started to look at each one. The first one is Wang Si. Apart from anything else, as the son of Yida Group, Wang Si has a lot of resources at his disposal. The most important thing is that Bai Yi often sees people from Yida Group posting various acquisitions on the forum. Posts on materials and resources. This time, in order to obtain the trading module, Yida devoted a lot of resources. Needless to say, metal ores are among them, including various precious fabrics, stones, wood, etc. Of course, there are no runes or anything. This is normal. At this stage, runes represent extraordinary power. If you don't have enough, how can anyone be willing to use it? But there are a few drawings. Bai Yi's eyes fell on a drawing. Drawing of the Pillar of Death. Close black lens bracket. I didn't expect that Yida even had this drawing in his hand. Bai Yi raised his eyebrows and sounded surprised. He had actually obtained this blueprint in his previous life. It was a very powerful blueprint, and its effect was not within the sanctuary, but outside the sanctuary. It is necessary to use some special materials to build 5 pillars of death around the shelter building, filling the air with the breath of death, shrouding the shelter, and then turning the area into a place of death, generating undead and automatically killing any approaching monsters and creatures. Because once the land of death is formed, in addition to the black mist, there will be death aura permeating the air. Many players may not be able to notice it, so they just walk in and die in the hands of the undead. Therefore, sometimes, the person who built this structure might go out to explore and touch the corpse when he came back. Among the resources Wang Xi has provided, this drawing is currently the only one worthy of Bai Yi's attention. Of course, some special materials are also available, but compared to precious drawings, they are obviously inferior. Bai Yi was very moved, but did not make a decision immediately. Instead, he continued to look at Nimang's list. With the support of the government, Nimang also has many resources at his disposal. However, there are very few special materials. It seems to be related to the official transfer of many resources as mentioned before. What she took out were mainly various drawings. Healing Spirit Pond drawing, close black lens bracket, Lingquan drawings, monster spawner drawings, close black lens bracket, opening square bracket comma closing square bracket, tisk, many of them are special buildings. Bai Yi exclaimed. All he could say was that it was indeed official, and there were many drawings that moved his heart. Healing Spirit Pool, you can build a pool building with powerful healing ability. The spiritual spring can spout special spiritual water to speed up the growth of plants and beasts. Needless to say, the monster spawner cage can spawn monsters indefinitely and obtain unlimited materials as long as it has energy. But these drawings are good, but their value is not as good as the Pillar of Death. After some hesitation, Bai Yi came to Huel and took a look at the list. The next moment, his pupils contracted. Death Grave Map, close black lens bracket. Holy crap, you actually still have this drawing. Bai Yi looked shocked and in disbelief. This thing is an absolutely god-level building. Of course, this is not to say that it is a divine object, but in the eyes of many people in the previous life, the effect of this building was that of a god-level building. Just by looking at the name, you can tell that as long as this building is built, a death cemetery will be obtained, and there will be many tombs in the cemetery. Monster corpses can be buried in these tombs. After waiting for a day, the monster's corpse will mutate in the direction of death and be resurrected. As long as you kill it, you can obtain materials. It can be said that this is an upgraded version of the monster spawner. But it's much more powerful than a monster spawner. Because as long as there are corpses, you can spawn unlimited monsters. And in fact, it is enough for each tomb to have only one corpse. The corpse that was put in at the beginning will start to mutate. After killing it, collect the materials and then put it in to continue the mutation. The cycle continues. You can continue to cycle until you become a divine being. That's right, it's so outrageous. As long as you are strong enough and cycle to the end, this building can continuously provide you with divine monsters to obtain materials from them. From this you can imagine how terrifying the effect of this building is. After all, if you just think about it, the materials on the divine monster will be very precious. Of course, the more powerful the monster, the longer it takes to resurrect. In the last life, not many people dared to resurrect the divine creatures in a continuous cycle. The only time was an attempt by a strong man, and he found that the cycle of divine creatures had reached its peak. And that time the strong man almost died, and he killed the divine creature at the cost of serious injuries. Most players who obtain this building do so to obtain materials for powerful monsters. To be honest, Bai Yi found it unbelievable to see this drawing at this stage. What made him even more unbelievable was that Huel was willing to take it out. However, this should be provided by the family behind Huel, and the other party may not know the true value of this drawing. The reason is that the information introduced in the descriptions of most items is incomplete, so no one knows the specific value. In addition, there are also factors why no players pay attention to drawings at this stage. After the shock, Bai Yi couldn't help but feel a flash of joy in his eyes. He contacted Hua without hesitation and chose this drawing. Voila, okay, brother Bai, please send me the address and I will send it to you right away. 111111, okay. Bai Yi sent the address and then replied to the other two people. Although Nimang and Wang Xi were a little disappointed in this regard, they still accepted the reality. After all, they all knew that in this case, it was obvious that what Huel came up with was more in line with Bai Yi's psychology. I just hope that next time Bai Yi has something good, he will remember to tell them. At the same time, Wang Si also asked about weapons. After Bai Yi notified the other party to come over tomorrow, Wang Si also went offline to play games. Afterwards, Bai Yi also went offline, opened the trading software, and threw some of the ordinary equipment he got today into my store, keeping only a few parts for recruiting suitable wanderers in the future. Synthesize useful equipment. After finishing all this, Bai Yi grinned and stretched out his arms. He stretched out his body and showed an expectant smile on his face. Very good, now we just have to wait for the drawings to arrive. Death Cemetery. Tisk tisk, once you get this thing, there will be a treasure land that can continuously produce materials with properties of death and darkness. Paired with his dark beloved talent. Simply invincible. But among the construction materials of the death cemetery, I remember that I need the breath of death and the soil of darkness. I don't know when I can get it. It is conceivable that the materials required for the construction of such a powerful building are also very precious. At least he has no clue now. But it doesn't matter, just get the drawings. The materials and stuff will be settled sooner or later. Considering that Huel would not arrive for a while, Bai Yi opened the game, came to the dwarf camp, and found the mountain cannon. Shan Pao was enjoying lunch in his tent and secretly drinking wine. When he saw Bai Yi coming, he thought it was another dwarf. He was startled and quickly made a gesture to hide the wine. After finding out it was Bai Yi, he breathed a sigh of relief. Bai Yi, it turns out it's you. It scared me to death. How about it? Can we leave now? Okay, but I plan to go alone this time. Bai Yi nodded and said. Although I don't know the specific situation in the next exploration area, it will definitely be more dangerous if there are enemies. So just in case, Bai Yi decided to go alone. After all, if you die, you can be resurrected tomorrow. But the mountain cannon is really dead when it dies. He was still waiting for mountain cannon to attack the dwarf king's sister. Well, my friend, although I am reluctant, I know that my strength is not enough for me to explore with you, which will hold you back. Shan Pao scratched his head and smiled bitterly. All I can do is pray for you in the camp and hope you are safe. He is self-aware and knows that if he continues to explore the secret realm with Bai Yi, not only will he not be able to help Bai Yi, but he will also hinder Bai Yi. After all, the monsters in the secret realm are very strong. If one of them is not handled well, he will die inside. Rather than doing this, it is better to let Bai Yi set off alone. Hearing this, Bai Yi smiled and nodded. Don't worry, I will. After saying that, he did not stay and directly used teleportation to return to the secret realm. Just as he was about to continue exploring, there was a knock on the door. It came pretty quickly. Bai Yi murmured, got up simply, and asked Zybel and others to go back to the room, while he went to the living room and opened the door. Obviously, the one at the door is Huel. What she was wearing was the same set of clothes in the previous photo of Bai Yi, looking pure and cute. A pair of big, watery eyes stared at Bai Yi with a look of joy. Brother Bai Yi, long time no see. It's been a long time, haven't we seen each other before? Bai Yi chuckled and invited Huel into the house. Walla said with a smile. Isn't it true that one day's absence is like 3 autumns? But we only guessed that we had met once. Bai Yi shook his head and laughed. He asked after pouring a glass of water for Huel. Where are the drawings? Hee, it's here. Huel took out the drawings. Bai Yi took it and took a look, with an imperceptible excitement flashing through his eyes. Tisk, now a trading module has been replaced with such a precious blueprint. If this was placed in the previous life, it would be a rubbish trading module that would not even be qualified to negotiate. With a satisfied smile on his face, Bai Yi nodded, took out the trading module, handed it over, and said. The method of use is very simple, just use it on your mobile phone. Okay, I know. Walla took it, beaming, and then without hesitation, she stood up and prepared to go back. Although she wanted to chat with Bai Yi for a while, she knew that Bai Yi wanted to play games, and so did she. Bai Yi would naturally not stay. After Huel left, Bai Yi returned to the room happily, put away the drawings, and returned to the game. Next, you have to pay attention to materials with death properties. But now, let's play the game first. Bai Yi twisted his neck, grinned, and started the afternoon game time. The outer hall area has been thoroughly explored. Bai Yi controls the character and walks deeper into the hall to the next area, the furnace area. Connected to the outer hall is a long passage. Passing through the passage and arriving at the furnace area, a flash of bright red immediately appeared on the screen. The scarlet aura filled the air at the end of the passage, as if the entire furnace area had been turned into a bloody land, revealing a heart-stopping weirdness. Scarlet. Bai Yi was shocked and noticed something strange. The entire furnace area was filled with scarlet. This was not a gas, but a kind of dust called scarlet. A very deadly form of pollution. Once you are in the scarlet zone, your will be difficult to firm up, your body will corrupt, and you will become a bloodthirsty monster. Bai Yi remembered that he had experienced a disaster called scarlet in his previous life. The sky and earth shrouded in black mist outside the shelter were filled with scarlet powder. At that time, few players dared to leave the shelter, because once they left, they would become corrupted puppets. As a result, I didn't expect that there was actually one in the secret realm opened by the dwarf. The appearance of scarlet dust is usually accompanied by scarlet rhizomes. Bai Yi looked forward solemnly, not knowing when the technique would appear. It seems that deep in the castle, the enemy I have to face next should be the scarlet puppet. Thinking of this, Bai Yi didn't hesitate at all. He waved the staff directly, and the blazing golden flames burst out in an instant, turning into a raging sea of fire and roaring towards the front. Wherever the golden flame passed, the scarlet dust was burned cleanly in an instant. Under the scorching heat, the scarlet dust is gradually receding as if it could be felt. But Bai Yi snorted coldly, and with a thought in his heart, he controlled the flames to pursue and turn all the scarlet dust into ashes. Only in this way did he dare to move forward boldly. Otherwise, we don't know when this scarlet dust will strike again. But that's it. Roar. An unknown roar suddenly came from deep in front, accompanied by waves of aura. Immediately afterwards, blood-red figures suddenly rushed out from the front, with red light lingering on their bodies. They passed directly through the sacred flames, suddenly rushed in front of Bai Yi, and punched out. Absorb the magic shield. Bai Yi reacted quickly. With a thought, the absorption shield condensed and blocked the blow. Ripples continued to appear, and then a shock wave erupted, sending the enemy's wife flying out of the hospital. At this time, Bai Yi also saw clearly the form of the enemy attacking him. It is a humanoid monster with blood-red skin all over its body, and its hands and feet are like sword blades. The punch just now was actually a sword. Fortunately, Bai Yi cast the spell fast enough, otherwise he would have been penetrated by it. Scarlet Sword Demon. Bai Yi recognized the monster in front of him, which was at least the 4th level of strength, but there was no fear in his eyes. Instead, he licked his lips and showed an excited smile. Just in time. I remember that you seem to have good materials on your body. The words fell. As if feeling Bai Yi's provocation, the Scarlet Sword Ghost suddenly waved his right arm, and a blood-red slash immediately broke out. Bai Yi didn't make any move. The magic shield completely blocked it, and absorbed the damage and turned it into a light wave to fight back. He was annihilated by the Scarlet Sword Ghost again with one sword. At the same time, Bai Yi also waved his staff, and pure magic blue light filled the air. Forbidden Spear. Silver-white spears condensed in midair and flew out impressively. There was a whirring sound, and a sound broke through the air. The Scarlet Sword Ghost jumped quickly and easily dodged it. Bai Yi was not surprised at all. The Scarlet Sword Ghost is a highly sensitive monster. The speed of the Forbidden Spear is actually very fast, but it is still much slower than the speed of the Sword Ghost. But he didn't just rely on the Forbidden Spear. The moment the Forbidden Spear was released, Bai Yi had already condensed the next magic. And the moment the Scarlet Sword Demon dodged, a shadow energy ball was blasted out, hitting the Scarlet Sword Demon's abdomen. The strong attraction made it unable to break free for a while. In addition to the damage caused by the shadow energy ball itself, there is also the damage to the soul caused by the soul mark, which makes people roar in pain. His body seemed to be twisted in pain. I'll send you on your way to die. Bai Yi sneered and cast the spell again. The sacred flame emerged, and under Bai Yi's control, turned into a sharp javelin and projected it towards the Scarlet Sword Ghost. With a pop, the javelin penetrated the Scarlet Sword Ghost's abdomen, and the flames began to surge and burn, igniting his body. Then there was a loud boom, and the shadow energy ball also exploded. The violent fluctuations emitted blasted the sword demon away, and as the flames continued to burn, his body was not burned out, but his soul had already dissipated. Seeing this, Bai Yi raised the corner of his mouth, raised his hand, and the flames roared and continued to spread towards the surrounding scarlet dust. He himself walked towards the body of the scarlet sword ghost, preparing to collect it. But at this moment, whoops, a scarlet tentacle suddenly struck from deep in front, like a flash of red light, about to penetrate Bai Yi's body in an instant. The speed is so fast that it is difficult to even have the slightest reaction time. What? Bai Yi exclaimed, a flash of shock flashed in his eyes, and at the same time, without any hesitation, he used Shadow Shuttle. With a swish sound, he immediately disappeared on the spot and appeared behind, dodging the tentacle attack. With a frightened expression on his face, he looked solemnly at the tentacles in front of him. They were thick, huge, and covered with sharp barbs, and seemed to be spreading from the deepest part of the castle. Fortunately, his strength has been improved, especially the increase in mental power, which made his 5 senses sharp and his reactions much faster. Otherwise, he would really die under this sudden attack. The speed of this tentacle is really too fast, like a lightning strike. Staring at the tentacles, to be honest, even as a reborn person, Bai Yi had never seen this thing in his previous life. Quite simply, his weak strength prevented him from having enough courage to explore many dangerous places. But, whatever you are, if you dare to sneak attack me, I will kill you directly. A fierce look appeared in Bai Yi's eyes, and with a wave of his staff, the holy flame swept away. The tentacles had no scruples, letting the flames ignite on themselves, and still came straight towards Bai Yi, still at the extremely fast speed. But Bai Yi had been prepared for a long time and was not afraid at all. After sneering, he waved his staff and absorbed the magic shield to cover himself. There was a bang. The blow was blocked, and at the same time, the shock wave emitted from the magic shield knocked back the tentacles a little. Shadow travel. Bai Yi seized the opportunity and disappeared. The next second, he suddenly came to the tentacles, and a thunder sword that emitted dazzling thunder appeared in his hands. Die! With a roar, Bai Yi slashed out with his sword. The thunder light bloomed on the thunder god sword and acted as a sharp edge, making the thunder god sword much sharper. With one strike of the sword, the scarlet tentacle was cut off directly. Scarlet blood continued to sputter. Roar! The sound of pain came from the depths, and the tentacles quickly retracting into the depths in the blink of an eye and disappearing from Bai Yi's sight. Snort! With a cold snort, Bai Yi waved his hand without changing his expression, dispersed the thunder divine sword, switched out the staff, and stared at the passage leading to the depths in front of him. Vaguely, some voices came out. Really? The next moment, 4 blood-red figures attacked, 4 scarlet sword ghosts. Die! Bai Yi didn't say any nonsense, and with a touch of coldness, the staff shook the ground. The gaze of the dead dragon. If there is a dragon roar, the gray-black dead dragon condenses, opens its cold eyes that seem to be indifferent to all life, and looks forward. The 4 scarlet sword ghosts that originally came at terrifying speed and rushed towards Bai Yi suddenly stopped the moment the dead dragon opened its eyes, almost only 1 step away from Bai Yi. But the next moment, bang bang bang. An invisible explosion sounded, and the 4 scarlet sword ghosts immediately fell down and turned into lifeless corpses. At this point, except for the sound of the sacred flames, this area began to gradually become quiet Qianuos. But Bai Yi's eyes were still solemn. The blood-red tentacles just now made him understand that there were more terrifying monsters in the deeper depths. In contrast, these orangutans. The red sword ghost just came out to die as if he were a minion. And I don't know how far away from the core area it is, but the tentacles can spread here to attack him, which also represents the extraordinary nature of this monster. With the speed of that tentacle, if he wasn't careful, he might really be killed by a sneak attack. This is not what he wants, so he still remains vigilant. After his eyes flickered, Bai Yi took a deep breath, held the staff tightly, and touched the corpses of the red sword ghosts in front of him. A prompt appears immediately. Collection is successful. You have obtained Scarlet Blood X5, Scarlet Blood Source X3, and Corrupted Sword Bone X2. Close black lens bracket. Yes, we have good materials again. A smile appeared on Bai Yi's face. He had said before that the Scarlet Sword Demon had good materials. Except for Scarlet Blood, which is useless, Scarlet Blood Source and Corrupted Sword Bone are both very good. Scarlet blood source. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The unknown energy in the powerful scarlet monster contains the will to make people crazy. Once used, it can temporarily make oneself lose the sense of pain and fall into madness, but at the same time it also will bring about a powerful recovery experience. Close black lens bracket. Tip. Excessive use will cause corruption. Close black lens bracket. Shion. Fallen sword bone. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. After darkness falls, the special blood-colored skeletons born under strange changes are as hard as steel, and contain the will of the sword ghost. They are excellent for forging sword weapons. Materials, but be careful to create a weapon that can kill yourself. Whether it is the scarlet blood source or the fallen sword bone, they all have strong effects. But at the same time, it also has strong negative effects. But for Bai Yi, it's not a big problem. It is not meant to be used directly, the most important thing is to use it for synthesis. Among them, the scarlet blood source is a kind of prop. After using it, it will undoubtedly greatly increase a person's combat power. Although it will lead to madness, Yu Yebin has no idea of using it directly. The moment he saw the scarlet sword ghost, he knew how to use these two materials. Among them, the scarlet blood source can be saved and synthesized with the moon fruit in the future. The moon fruit already has a calming effect. If synthesized, it may be able to neutralize the shortcomings of the scarlet blood source that make people crazy, thereby allowing oneself to gain a powerful potion-like prop. As for the sword bone, generally speaking, this thing has no effect on Bai Yi. After all, he is a mage, not a warrior. However, sword weapons forged from sword bones are really strong. As far as Bai Yi knows, any weapon forged from sword bones has a blood-sucking effect. That's right, absorb the enemy's blood and restore your own injuries. But similarly, a weapon forged from this material has a high probability of forming a demon knife, which can hurt people as well as others. But again, Bai Yi is not used to forge weapons, but to synthesize them, and it is synthesized with the Thunder God Sword. You must know that the Thunder God Sword, as thunder, has the effect of restraining dark creatures, and it is not a forged weapon. It cannot be synthesized and its skills become super skills, right? Just think about it and you know it's unlikely. Of course, Bai Yi is not in a hurry now. He also has the idea of combining these two items together. But everything has to wait until the game time is over. Thinking of this, Bai Yi raised his eyes and looked around. Under the burning of the sacred flames, the scarlet dust was completely burned and retreated deeper. As a furnace area, there are many huge furnaces here, which can also be understood as dwarf forging workshops. After Bai Yi took a few glances, a smile appeared on his face, and he walked directly to a corner and waved his hand. You have obtained Iron X 14100. Close black lens bracket. You obtained Orichalcum X 400. Close black lens bracket. You obtained Mithril X 300. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained Dark Iron X 1000. Close black lens bracket. Ha ha ha, it is indeed a dwarf's forging workshop. There is indeed a lot of ore. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and couldn't help but smile. In addition to the ore piles that had just been collected, he also saw similar ones in other places. Just as he had expected before, there may not be any other big gains when coming here, but metal ore and the like are definitely indispensable. Of course, it is definitely better to have a treasure chest. Bai Yi collected the metal ores here while searching. Soon, some weapons were found outside some furnaces. You picked up the rusty iron sword. Close black lens bracket. You picked up the hatchet. Close black lens bracket. You picked up the iron sword. Close black lens bracket. You picked up the damaged meteorite staff. Close black lens bracket. You picked up the damaged nature necklace. Close black lens bracket. Bai Yi looked startled, then his eyes brightened, and he immediately opened his backpack to check. Damaged meteorite staff. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. A staff forged from extraterrestrial meteorites, with the ability to summon meteorites, once created an unparalleled reputation in the hands of a mage, but unfortunately it was damaged in the abnormal battle, and even the dwarves could not repair it. The materials can only be stored temporarily. Close black lens bracket. Damaged natural necklace. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. A natural necklace made from natural elves, it can better mobilize the power of the elements after being equipped. However, after the arrival of darkness, it was completely damaged and lost all abilities due to some powerful monsters. The dwarves tried to repair it, but the most critical elemental crystal was missing. Close black lens bracket. There are actually 2 pieces of equipment. Bai Yi looked surprised. Although both pieces of equipment are damaged, they are still treasures to Bai Yi. Through synthesis, even if it cannot be repaired to its original appearance, it can still be synthesized into new extraordinary equipment, and it will definitely be more powerful than ordinary extraordinary equipment. Tisk, tisk, as expected, this is the right place. Bai Yi had a delighted smile on his face. Although he can obtain extraordinary equipment through synthesis, there are not many synthesized equipment that are useful to him, because most of the equipment he obtains are weapons that can only be used by melee professions, and he cannot use such weapons even after they are synthesized. And necklaces, rings and the like are rarely obtained. The same goes for the staff. Now I got 2 pieces of equipment at once that can be used to synthesize and will be useful to me after synthesis. It's no problem to call it a surprise. Without rushing to synthesize, Bai Yi continued to search, but unfortunately, apart from these 2 pieces of equipment, no trace of the treasure chest was found. Instead, he found the body of a dwarf in front of a furnace. The flesh and blood had dissipated over the years, leaving only a skeleton was left behind. What caught Bai Yi's attention was a piece of parchment held in the skeleton's hand. I picked it up and looked at it, and there was actually a civil servant written in blood by a dwarf on it. My masterpiece, why is it so bad? Outside dwarves, if you see my body and find my suicide note, please leave immediately. This place is dangerous. I roughly know the purpose of your coming here is for the heart of the volcano. It is stored in the deepest part of the core area and provides energy for all the furnaces here. But it is a pity that the heart of the volcano has been occupied by a terrifying existence. I can't describe that monster in words. I only know that it was originally a seed. I don't know when it appeared in the core area and was planted in the rocks in the core area. It absorbed the energy escaping from the heart of the volcano and grew. At first, we didn't notice it at all. When we started to pay attention, it was too late. It had already grown and emitted a unique blood-colored mist. In the mist, everyone went crazy, and some even became monsters with the same origin as it, and were controlled by it. Everyone is killing each other. Bodies were everywhere. Actually, I wanted to escape, but the outer hall was occupied by other monsters, and I couldn't escape even if I wanted to. I'm actually not afraid of death. What I regret is that I didn't take a sip of dwarf blood when I was about to die. I haven't drank it for a long time. It's so nostalgic, I almost forgot the taste. What it's like. There is another one, which is my masterpiece. In order to avoid being destroyed by monsters, I hid it in the furnace behind me. If you can, I hope you can take it away. Obviously there was only 1 point left, just the last point to complete it, but unfortunately, its appearance prevented me from completing it. That's a puppet I made using the magic technology of the Academy. I hope you can perfect it for me. By the way, remember to put a bottle of wine next to my body when you leave. Any kind of wine is fine, I want to drink so much. Also, don't go any further. The monster cannot leave the core area. As long as you don't go in, it won't come out. But if you go in, it will never come out again. Just leave. The heart of the volcano may be important, but it is not the only one. In comparison, living is more valuable, isn't it? My name is Dragon Hammer, the strongest female dwarf in the dwarf castle. I consider myself. Please remember my name. The content of this suicide note is quite long. Although many of the above contents were the dwarf's own ramblings, some of them made Bai Yi frown. See, he subconsciously turned his head and looked in the direction of the core area. Glancing at the skeleton again, he couldn't help but laugh lightly and said, "What you wrote is a bit incorrect. The suicide note said that the monster could not leave the core area. Now it seems that it is almost the same, but perhaps because it has been so long ago, the monster's tentacles can already extend to the furnace area. The most important thing is that even the scarlet dust has spread here. If it weren't him who came, but those dwarves, I'm afraid not one of them would be left alive, and they would all be buried here. Oh no, there is a high probability that they will not get here. After all, there is a nightmare ghost spider ahead. It can only be said that after the darkness fell, this dwarf castle was like a leaky sieve, with a large number of monsters getting in, turning it into an extremely dangerous castle. In addition, some of the contents in the suicide note are actually quite useful. At least I know that the monster in the depths is probably a plant. As a plant, it is bound to be afraid of fire, which makes Bai Yi relax a lot. As for why the previous tentacle didn't care about the flame, he figured it out after thinking about it. It was probably because it was not the opponent's body. As long as he is afraid of fire and relies on his own sacred flames, he will have the confidence to fight against the opponent as long as his strength is not too outrageous. Moreover, once such a powerful monster is killed, extremely precious materials may be collected. In addition to these, there is another most important point in the suicide note. The final masterpiece. Putting down the suicide note, Bai Yi looked at the huge melting pot piled up in front of him, and couldn't help but show excitement in his eyes. Although there is no treasure chest here, I didn't expect that there is a treasure hidden far more anticipated than the treasure chest. An item forged by a dwarf based on academic magic technology. I don't know what kind of weapon it is. Without hesitation, Bai Yi's heart moved. The mage's hand was immediately unleashed. Magic surges. 4 magic arms spread out behind him like big blue wings, and in the next moment they condensed into a thunder sword. Cut. Following Bai Yi's thought, the mage's hands held the thunder god sword and slashed towards the furnace in front of them. One after another slashes suddenly erupted. There was a boom. Dust rises. Many cracks immediately appeared on the furnace, but they were not broken. It is indeed a furnace built by dwarves. Bai Yi chuckled. No surprise, for dwarves who like to forge weapons, the quality of the furnace is definitely top-notch. You must know that the furnace made by the dwarves has the possibility of forging artifacts. If it doesn't work once, try it again. Rumble. The mage's hands waved wildly. One after another slashes suddenly erupted, continuously bombarding the furnace. Dust billows. The roar shook. After a moment, there was a click sound. Another slash fell. The huge furnace roared, and a gap opened in the middle, which continued to spread, and finally completely split into 2 halves, collapsing towards both sides. At the same time, the things in the furnace also appeared in Bai Yi's field of vision, causing him to open his eyes wide. Gulu. What's this? Looking at the things in front of him, Bai Yi looked stunned and felt unbelievable for a moment. Don't blame him for that. The things in front of me are really too unbelievable. This is actually a silver-white person. No, it shouldn't be said that it's a human being. To be more precise, should it be a robot or a simulated human? Bai Yi doesn't understand very well, but he couldn't help but look at the skeleton in front of him, and a sense of absurdity arose in his heart. You are such a dwarf. Shouldn't the best thing be forging various cold weapons? All we play with are hammers, not wrenches. How did you come up with the idea of making a simulated human? Even if he borrowed the magic technology from the academy, Bai Yi still found it strange. It's very different, especially putting a high-tech product like a simulated human together with a dwarf gives people an extremely sense of dissonance. But after coming back to his senses, curiosity appeared in Bai Yi's eyes again. Although I don't understand why a dwarf would want to make a simulation, but since it is called a masterpiece, it probably has a good effect, right? Licking his lips, Bai Yi immediately walked towards the furnace, preparing to put away the simulator. Suddenly, the sound of tearing through the air suddenly sounded. Bai Yi suddenly turned his head to look in the direction of the core area, and Rigon's rough-dressed tentacles suddenly struck. Without any hesitation, Bai Yi waved the staff. Absorb the magic shield. A buzzing sound. The barrier covers itself. The powerful blow of the tentacle was directly blocked, causing the shield to tremble, and then a shock wave bounced back, knocking it back. Holy flame. Without any hesitation, Bai Yi continued to wave the staff, and the golden flame surged up and engulfed him. However, the tentacles were not afraid of the flames with terrifying temperature. Instead, they passed through the flames and attacked Bai Yi again. But at the moment when it was close to the absorption shield, the tentacles paused, and the next moment they turned around and ran straight towards the simulation behind Bai Yi. This guy's purpose is not Bai Yi, but the final masterpiece of Dragon Hammer. Bai Yi's expression changed on the spot. You want to take my stuff too? Roll. The mage's hands danced wildly, and the divine sword waved. One sword slashed out, and the tentacles were cut in two. PFF'd. Scarlet blood sputtered out. The tentacles retracted rapidly. Seeing this, Bai Yi sneered. I finally found a treasure when I finally got here, you want to grab it? Is it a human being? Sooner or later I'll go in and kill you. After getting rid of the tentacle, Bai Yi turned around and looked at the simulated man behind him without letting down his guard. He quickened his pace and approached it. Without hesitation, he put it directly into his backpack. Next moment, whoops, the sound of breaking through the air came from behind again. Bai Yi quickly looked back and saw a new tentacle coming. He looked calm, without any surprises, and just waved his staff to cast spells. Shadows shuttle. A swish sound. Bai Yi disappeared from the spot and came to the other side of the tentacle the next moment. The hand of the mage behind him wielded the Thunder Divine sword and immediately slashed out. The lightning flashed and turned into sharp slashes. The tentacles were cut off again. But at this moment, there was a sudden sound of breaking through the air behind him. Immediately afterwards, a tentacle suddenly pierced Bai Yi's chest. Depend on. Bai Yi couldn't help but swore immediately. He looked back while the screen was dark and saw a tentacle emerging from the ground and attacking him from behind. Open black lens bracket, you are dead. Close black lens bracket. A prompt appeared on the screen. Then it was taken over by blood red. Nima, you can still drill into the ground, right? Bai Yi couldn't help but put down his phone and cursed. Originally, he wanted to continue exploring to see if he could enter the core area to find out what the monster was like, and he had always remained vigilant. But he didn't expect that the monster's tentacles could actually appear from the ground. Forget it, luckily I got the simulator, and if I die, I'll die. I just need to be more careful tomorrow. Bai Yi murmured after exhaling a breath. The tentacles extend so far and are so destructive. Not only can they attack from various directions, they even have more than one tentacle. This has proven the terror of that monster. It may be a problem to reach the core area. But Bai Yi didn't worry too much. Anyway, his own death in the game is not a real death. At worst, he would have to fill it with his life. If you don't believe it, you still can't defeat him. Shaking his head, Bai Yi picked up the coke on the side and touched it. It was no longer ice, and immediately shouted in the direction of the living room. Tiger Mom, take a breath. Roar. A low roar sounded, followed by a breath of cold air blowing from the living room. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and raised his hand to catch the cola. Coca-Cola at room temperature immediately became extremely cold. Ha, feel good. Bai Yi took a sip, and the feeling of coolness in his heart immediately dissipated the depression in his heart. Next, I couldn't help but rub my hands and opened my backpack expectantly. The game time is over, and naturally the next step is to check the harvest. Let me see the dwarf's last masterpiece and see what effect it has. Even the monster wants to rob it. Just for this reason, Bai Yi felt that this simulated person was not simple. Find the simulator in the backpack, click to view, and its relevant information will immediately appear on the screen. Damaged magic doll. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. A special doll created by the whim of the dwarf dragon hammer, with the help of academic magic technology and several dwarf forging masters, has the core ability to absorb any energy and convert it into its own energy power. Close black lens bracket. In the idea of dwarf dragon hammer, it should have the ability to grow, so through the joint efforts of it and several dwarves, the doll was given the ability to swallow metal and improve itself. Close black lens bracket. At the same time, it also has strong learning ability and adaptability. Close black lens bracket. The inside of it is exactly the same as that of a human creature. Whether it is skin, flesh, or bones, it is made from a variety of precious and special resources collected by the dwarf dragon hammer. Close black lens bracket. But because the soul was not implanted at the critical moment, it became a pity, and it was damaged over a long period of time. It can be controlled by implanting the consciousness of living beings. Close black lens bracket. It can be repaired in the hands of a dwarf blacksmith master with academic knowledge, or it can be repaired by swallowing the metal yourself. Close black lens bracket. Looking at appearing on the screen, Bai Yi looked excited, with an unstoppable excited smile on his face. To be honest, this is the first time Bai Yi has seen such a long introduction. Very detailed, and this introduction also made Bai Yi fully understand the power of this doll. And now I understand why the monster in the core area wanted to steal this doll. What a powerful doll. Not only does it have strong adaptability, but it can actually grow by swallowing special minerals and metals. It's simply outrageous. It would be nice if there was a limit. If there is no upper limit, Bai Yi has to wonder whether the dragon hammer has been inherited by the god of forging. Can a dwarf really make this thing? Oh, there was not just one dwarf, but several, but the one who definitely contributed the most was the dragon hammer. But that's not important. The important thing is that he finally understands why this doll was snatched by monsters. It was explained in the introduction that it can be controlled by implanting consciousness. In other words, even if the doll is damaged, it can still be restored by swallowing metal ore. As I said before, the monster in the core area is a mysterious and strange plant. Based on Bai Yi's understanding of plants, no matter how long its roots spread, the rhizomes cannot move. But that monster is extraordinary and obviously has its own thinking ability, otherwise it would not attract Bai Yi's attention by attacking Bai Yi, and then wait for an opportunity to steal the doll. Therefore, the other party focused on this doll and wanted to take it away and implant it into his own consciousness, making the doll a freely walking body of the other party. Of course, this is Bai Yi's guess, which may not be accurate, but it is highly likely to be the case. I have to say, that dragon hammer is really a genius. Bai Yi couldn't help but exclaimed. It's a pity that he is dead. As long as he is alive, he will definitely be sought after by the academic community. Once this doll takes shape, it becomes a life in another form. Because it was mentioned in the introduction that the last step of dragon hammer is to implant a soul into it. Once it is successful, and it has the ability to grow, what is it other than another life? Fortunately, I got it and the monster didn't take it away. Bai Yi also felt lucky at this time. If he was really going to be snatched away by a monster, he couldn't imagine how he would face a monster and a magic doll with growth potential. Taking a deep breath, Bai Yi shook his head, put aside some messy thoughts in his mind, and began to think about the use of this doll. It can be controlled by implanting consciousness. But what makes him feel regretful is that he doesn't know this method. As a result, although this doll is very strong, it also becomes useless. This is true even if Zybel wants to come. Of course, the tastelessness is only temporary. Since the original idea of the dragon hammer was to implant a soul into it, Bai Yi could also consider finding a way to obtain a pure soul in the future and then synthesize it with it. Maybe it can make up for the regret of dragon hammer and make this doll fully formed. Suddenly, Bai Yi touched his chin, his eyes flashed, and a bold idea suddenly appeared in his mind. Looking at the backpack on the screen, Bai Yi took it out directly to the shelter, then looked at the white-haired girl in the shelter, and couldn't help but ask expectantly. Yue, can your consciousness be separated? Yes, master. Yue nodded and said, it's just that there are too few functions in the shelter at present, so there is no need to separate it for the time being. I can manage it by myself. Of course, if the owner needs it, I can also show it. 1. Ha ha ha, let's try it then. Hearing this, Bai Yi laughed excitedly and immediately gave orders. See if you can implant your consciousness into this doll. If you can, doesn't it mean that Yue also has a body? That's right. This is a method that Bai Yi suddenly thought of just now. Since you can control this doll by implanting consciousness, why do you need to find a way to implant a soul? Even if I don't know how to implant consciousness, doesn't there happen to be a Yue who manifests her will in my shelter? Although it may not be successful, as long as it works, Yue will not only have a body that can grow, but she will also have a strong and loyal subordinate. After all, once the soul is implanted, the soul will have its own will and may not choose to submit to him. But Yue is different. As her own refuge, Yue is absolutely loyal to herself. Doll, I know. After hearing Bai Yi's instructions, Yue nodded and started trying immediately. Yue immediately turned into a ray of light, escaped towards the magic doll, and merged into the body. Later, under Bai Yi's gaze, a minute passed and there was no movement. 2 minutes passed and there was still no movement. 5 minutes passed and there was still no movement. Just when Bai Yi gradually showed a look of disappointment, 10 minutes passed, and suddenly, the doll's body started to move. Then, the doll opened its eyes, revealing a pair of blue pupils with a hint of confusion. Is this a success? Bai Yi's eyes widened and he suddenly became excited. But soon Bai Yi suppressed it again, forced himself to calm down, and shouted softly. Moon solstice. Owner. The doll instantly raised its head, with a humane and happy smile on its face. Master, look, I seem to have succeeded. Can you move? Okay. UAE nodded and began to control the puppet's body to stand up and move. Walk. Jump. Very smooth. This scene made Bai Yi unable to hold back any longer and showed a happy smile. Ha ha ha, it sure works. I'm such a genius. Just a bold idea. It actually came true. Bai Yi said quickly. Yu Yi, come with me to the core room and I'll see if I can make a contract with you. Although UAE is the will of sanctuary, strictly speaking, her current body is not. Very complicated. Strictly speaking, it shouldn't be life, but UAE's consciousness is equivalent to giving it a soul, which is considered life. In short, if it is life, it can be contracted. Even if its will is the refuge of UAE itself. Once the contract is signed, his understanding of the magic dolls will be more comprehensive. Okay, Master. Yu Yi nodded obediently and came to the core room of the shelter. Results of the contract. Close black lens bracket. As a prompt appeared on the phone screen, the excited smile appeared on Bai Yi's face again. Nice. Bai Yi couldn't help clenching his fist and waving it. Without hesitation, he checked the information about the magic doll. Magic doll, Yu Yi. Close black lens bracket. Level. None. Close black lens bracket. Talent. Absolute adaptability. Whether it is fighting spirit, magic, or other energy, your body has the right adaptability, you can master it all, and it will not cause any conflict. Close black lens bracket. Skills. Swallowing. You can repair yourself or improve your level by swallowing metal ores, up to level 6 energy burst damage overload frenzy damage. Learn quickly damage and death. Close black lens bracket. Current energy. 9%. Close black lens bracket. Hey, this talent is too scary, isn't it? Looking at the doll's panel, Bai Yi couldn't help but take a deep breath. Although I had guessed it was scary before, but I didn't expect it to be more outrageous than I thought. It can perfectly adapt to the energy of fighting spirit and magic. It means that as long as this doll learns properly, it can hold the staff in both hands to release fighting spirit to fight with others and then pull away. Another shot of magic from afar. Simply outrageous. Fortunately, the swallowing ability has an upper limit. Otherwise, I would really doubt whether it is a creation of the true God. Bai Yi exclaimed. If the upper limit was only level 6, it would actually be acceptable. Because the upper limit is 6 levels, it is destined that no matter what, the doll's strength can only reach this point and can never be improved further. Very powerful, but not that exaggerated. Because the upper limit is fixed, it can only be a powerful helper that is useful in the early stage. Later, when the player's strength increases, it will be difficult to be useful. Unless the upper limit can be raised, but think about it and you know it's impossible. After all, the technical content required for this thing is too high. It requires dwarf forging skills and profound academic knowledge, which is not something ordinary people can master. Even if you master it, you may not have this ability. Hey, it doesn't seem impossible. Bai Yi rolled his eyes, and suddenly his heart moved. Just because others can't do it, doesn't mean he can't do it. He doesn't need to master that knowledge. He just needs to synthesize it. If you can. Damn, doesn't that mean this doll's growth potential is unlimited? Hiss. Extraordinary. This is a huge profit, man. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.